wants to smoke? Who wants to smoke?
Yeah.
Who wants to smoke?
Yeah. Temperatures going up, the heat is rising, scholars showing up, audience vibing. We on a mission, competition is the only desire. Whose information will be facing the mercy of fire? So step up, stand up, can you walk through hell? So tough, too tough for the weak soft shell. Set the fire, fan the flame, smoke is rising in blooms, while the inexperienced today just does the choke on the fumes. Bring your science, bring the wisdom, even bring your religion. If you can't stand the heat, then please don't come in the HOK. It's just a session, learn a lesson, fight and overcome oppression. Who'll be the best debated by the time all the smoke clears?
Who wants to smoke?
Want the smoke. This environment is the toughest, so bring your best in, put your spirit to the test. You stepping into the ring with the scholar, with the no digits harder. I will make you holler in the information flow with power. You wanted to peak, the elite, the undisputed. Now watch as your outdated theories get refuted. I'm posted in the den, let the world burn. Pressure in the room, it's finally my turn. They want the smoke, I'm the whole forest fire. Watch the oxygen vanish as the flames climb higher. My mind is the weapon, I'm no joke. I'm the baddest, I come for the smoke. No joke, I'm the baddest to ever breathe. I don't play house, I make them leave. Smoke session. Smoke, 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 smoke session. I want the smoke. Smoke, smoke, smoke session. sa.neter, you better want 'em. Who want the smoke? Who want to say that I'm not playing? Oh my God, sa.neter, stop playing with me. Now Paul, you better tell him, you better tell her. Now Paul, stop playing with me.
High-level discussions and discourse. I'm really looking forward to this debate. I think it's a really critical topic that we need to address and finally come to some understanding of. I am a historian who has really focused on the history of Africa and African people for all of my adult life, for the last 30 years. And I want you to also understand that in doing that, not only did I receive a degree in Africana Studies, not only have I continued to take study trips. Tomorrow will be my 24th study trip to Africa. But I've also studied the history of the African diaspora, of Africans in the United States and in the rest of the world. And so I believe that this conversation will be interesting. I will tell you that some of my students may be here. You may know that I'm a professor of African history at Hunter College. Some of my students may be watching. So that means I'm going to be easy on Ali. You know that's not true. You know that's not true. They are expecting me to settle this score. And so I look forward to doing that. Today, we're going to learn about the origin, the culture, and the legacy of African people in the New World. I look forward to having this discussion.
All right, we appreciate that, Jabari. We look forward to hearing it from you. Chief Ali, Jabari.
Yes, sir. Peace.
Go ahead and holler at the people for us.
All right. First of all, I'd like to thank sa.neter and all of his staff for setting this opportunity up for me and Jabari, all the brothers who all throughout the years, when YouTube first began, I sat with sa.neter and we started doing videos on YouTube. This was 2006. All right. So that's quite a while ago. And it led to more open debates where we debated in person. I've debated many of the House of Consciousness scholars in person. And it's been a journey. I want to thank the audience for showing up because you guys decided to lend over your hard-earned energy to come and listen to us to have a discourse. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. You will learn things that you have never heard. You will leave here wanting very, very badly to study. About myself, my personal history, I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. My first levels of education took place at Temple University, where I graduated. I have a scholarship to Temple University. I played football for Temple University, D1 footballs. I was in the house, and I continued my journey on. My socio-political affiliation in the Black community came through the Nation of Islam back in 1998. It was when I first joined the Nation of Islam with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it was a great experience. I learned a lot about discipline and manhood and brotherhood. And I carried out my studies further. My studies really began to get into this indigenous knowledge, specifically from one lady who is the origin of all of this conversation. Her name was Tierra Verdiasi. She was the mayor of Monroe, Louisiana, and she had a tribe called the Washita. She actually owned land in Poverty Point, Louisiana, and she began this discussion. And one of my FOI brothers introduced me to her back in the 90s. And so my first trip out of the country studying this was to Teotihuacan in 2004. And so at that time, you know, after having read about the places and going to the places, Tenochtitlan, which is Mexico City, and the other places, over all this time, I've come to the conclusion from the research that we need to broaden our scope of the African-American population in the West and their origins. And so with that, I'm a part of a tribe. It's called the Shiamaru tribal government. We are a literal tribal government. We started that process back in 2006, or you know it as honor. And so some people call me Dr. Ali Muhammad, but that was my name with the Nation of Islam. I haven't had that name in years. I was born with the name Ali. And so my full lawful and legal name, which y'all probably don't even know, is Amaru Shi Ali. And I developed a curriculum in Muhammad's Islamic Academy. So my background is as a principal and coordinated education for 7 years, 26 in Cecil B. Moore. Y'all know me, right in the heart of North Philadelphia. For 7 years, we were there. And I went on as the internet developed to develop an online school called Aboriginal University, where all of these studies that we're talking about come from. And so I've been in Aboriginal University helping people for the last 13 years with courses that we're gradually developing to attempt to develop a curriculum around the information with good sources. So one of the things that you're going to get today is very source material. And I think the discourse is going to be helpful for our community. It's going to broaden our community. It's not going to create a this versus that. It's going to create a wow, I didn't know. And so I'm thankful for Jabari for taking this. He is a very reputable scholar, and we about to go in.
Now we can definitely appreciate the politeness and the pleasantries. You know what I'm saying? Because brothers been getting it in, but we about to get into the nitty gritty, as they say, right? So with the introductions out the way, let's go ahead and lay out the rules of engagement, just so everybody knows.
Put Domo on the screen.
Just so everybody know how we about to get down. So it's a slightly different format than which I've seen in the past. We dealing with heavyweight scholars, so we want to make sure they're able to get this information out. So the way we're going to be doing it today, we got 3 20-minute rounds. 3 20-minute rounds. After each round, we have 3-minute rebuttals for the opponent from whoever gave the previous round. So when Jabari goes, right before Chief Ali goes, he gets a 3-minute rebuttal before he gets into his 20 minutes. After the 3 20-minute rounds and then the 3 3-minute rebuttals, we have a cross-examination that will consist. Give him just a little bit. My phone moving a little slow. Okay, 20 minutes on the clock. Whenever you're ready.
All right, so are we going to start when I start sharing my screen? Can we do that?
Whenever you, you can share. Go ahead and put your screen up now, just in case, so we don't run into.
Yeah, I'm going to switch around, but this is just my first slide to start. So whenever y'all ready and this is visible, then I'll start digging into this conversation.
Yeah, we got your screen up here. Just let me know.
All right, I'm ready. Ready?
Oh, yep.
All right, peace to everybody. I first want to say I wrote an entire book for this presentation. There's 303 pages of primary and secondary sources to prove all of my points. And so if you're on IG, godbody.og, you can download this material. This is about further study after this particular debate. And I think that it's inherent upon us to create think tanks and materials to do so. All right, so let me go to my next screen. All right, so let me show you how practical it is, because a lot of people ask, well, what's the practicality of this indigenous thing? This is my brother right here. His name is Ansar El Muhammad. He is the mayor of Sun Village, California. This city is a city we own. This is a tribal township. You can go to this city. You can live in this city. We went through many different processes with Los Angeles County and California. You can go to Sun Village Township.org, and you can see my brother along with all the brothers and sisters. He had indigenous people with him, and he had some Moorish brothers from the West Coast to help. And these are town council members of this city in California, which is an indigenous city. And you see, these are two, the co-founders, Brother Kuku Khan and Brother Ansar are the co-founders in this relationship. And it's a whole history. But what I want to show you is that we can build these indigenous cities all across the country. We have a full map. And this is why I wanted to talk about the law, the history, and the genetics, because this brings the practicality to this particular subject. I'm talking about city planning, city designing, operations, law enforcement, and these things. And so you need to be aware of those particular things. All right, so let me scroll back up and jump into the data. The first thing I want to say is my first point of critique about Aboriginal Americans versus Africans is a basic historical one, and I think it's very pertinent to the conversation. I'll open up this conversation. Can y'all still see my screen? Yeah, great. All right. I opened up this conversation. I did this lecture in 2018. I think me and Reggie had a discussion prior to this. I had been off of sa.neter for about 6 years. But my critique about this word African is the historical disrespect it brings to the indigenous peoples of that continent. And when we are using words, one of the neat reasons we change our names from European names to indigenous names on that continent or this continent is because we want to identify with our ancestors. And so,
60s when the Civil Rights Act passed, Black people were still not welcome to move into
I don't even know what that is.
And so this stayed around.
Stop his time. Stop his time.
Oh, yeah. I
Somebody's
stopped it.
Yo, who's
Let's
talking, man? Put your stuff on mute.
Yeah, we got something playing.
Moved to Palmdale and Lancaster.
Good going.
At this point.
Can we find out who that is?
Ali, you think you got another screen up?
I don't have another screen up. Let me see. I don't have no screens up, bro.
I apologize. That was me. You know what it was? That was your website making noise.
Oh, you went to go look at the website to verify. Yeah. Great. Yeah, it has a, you know what? I was listening, it sounded familiar. It wasn't my website. That's a different website.
All right.
So they have
let's go.
On time, but they have a automatic historical discussion. Man, that threw me off. I'm like, who is this? All right, so where am I at? Please give me a gauge.
1712.
All right,
Okay, so
you might
you might
give him 3 more minutes for that because that's Jabari mistake. You can put 2 more minutes on that.
All right, bet.
Because he lost focus and he broke his momentum.
So all right, so we're gonna reset you to 19.
Okay, tell me when you're ready. I'm gonna hit it.
And go.
All right, see, these are my direct words in that lecture. I refuse to call that continent Africa. I refuse to suggest my people join onto the Pan-African ideology. I require identity for remedy, not ideology. When I say identity, I mean it's hard facts and it can be implemented into your current economics now. It is absolute disrespect for original people to name themselves after a homosexual Greco-Roman deity, Pan, and a white goddess, a Roman goddess, Africa. This is a direct quote from Dr. Ben, one of our elders. Africa, the current misnomer. Misnomer means the name does not apply to the place at all. Adopted by almost everyone today, was given to this continent by the ancient Greeks and Romans. That's Dr. Ben speaking. That's one of our elders. This is directly from one of you all's great teachers, Dr. Ben. There have been attempts to say Africa is actually indigenous. It is not. The Afar in East Africa are not originally named Afar. They are the Danakil. And the Afar comes from Kafar, which was given to them by invading Arabs. All right, it literally means Kafar, not non-believer. So I'm gonna keep going. The names, African Nova, African Vedas, African Proconsulators, these were invasive jurisdictions that were brought into Africa. So here we have John Henry Clark. This is important. He's talking about how African governments took European style methodology to form all of their governments. And that's the current case right now. But it goes into the psychology too, because the psychology is if you don't have these books all throughout Africa to know where your name comes from, and you're the African Union or the Organization of African States, you're disrespecting yourself. So here's one source, the North African Stones Speak. And I'm going to start here in reading about this particular temple where this Roman goddess was worshipped before they went into battle to fight our indigenous ancestors. All right, with an originally bronze balustrade and a colonnaded garden, colossal statues of Serapis and Saturn were found in this temple, and dedications to Diana Augusta and the Dia Africa. So this is the temple right here, a Byzantine temple, Roman temple, that these deities were worshipped. And here she is in art. Here she is on coinage. Here she is with Emperor Hadrian, where the words Africa was first minted into stone with white people. This disrespect is a psychological chain reaction that has branches to it. These are the jurisdictions, Africa Proconsularis. So what I'm saying is we have to abandon this. This is Pan, a Greek god of bestiality. This is the disrespect we're showing ourselves by using that particular name. But using that particular name is both psychological and historical. So now let me go into the parts of the presentation that pertain to us being here. Let me scroll down. Hold on. Page 96. There we go. 96. Now, the first European explorer to go from where we are at in Florida to up into the New York area was an explorer named Verrazano. The bridge in New York is named after him. This is his eyewitness account of the people from the area that's now Florida all the way up the East Coast. He says, quote, "Some of them wear garlands of bird feathers. They are dark in color, not unlike the Ethiopians, with thick black hair, not very long, tied to the back behind the head." And he goes on to talk about how they look. But now this is someone who's familiar with what an Ethiopian would look like, and he describes the people in that area as Ethiopians. So my question to anybody who's saying these things, starting here and going further into my presentation, the eyewitness accounts, yes, the eyeball test does have some credence, especially when it is consistent over long time periods. And what we're going to find is that it's consistent over long time periods. Let's go. Page 92. This is from the John Carter Brown Library, Native American Archives. 2 pictures, distinctive artists showing what Indians or Aboriginals on the East Coast look like. These are the Indians in Virginia, and these were the Mingwe, or what you would call Iroquois, in the North. You can see the artists depicting the lighter, what I would call Eurasian types, as opposed to the Aboriginal dark eumelanin types. Here's your source right here so that you can see that, all right? And that's very, very important to continue in this theme of showing who is who. One of the other things that is really, really important, let me go to this part, is the descriptions. The descriptions further. This is the English first encounter from the book Ancient America. Quotes directly from the explorers left in notes. And when they came in Virginia amongst the Powhatan, this is the word for that tribe, This is the direct quote. Then Powhatan, and the page is here, and I have the book, I can open up the source, chapter 2, page 205. Then Powhatan, more like a devil than a man, this is the chief, with about 200 more as black as himself in Virginia. Now, one of the things I do, I can go all day with this part, with the Spanish and them seeing how they looked, and I can go to further sources if we have to. But when you start naming the tribes, one of the things you find is there's linguistic connections directly to what we call the Olmec Maya. I don't call them that, I call them the She, because that's what they call themselves in their language. And I'll be able to pull up the glyphs and anything that needs to prove that. And I will do that in later rounds. Powhatan comes directly from this glyph right here. This glyph, which was a Mayan glyph, you can see right here, is from the books Reading the Mayan Glyphs by Michael Coe, who is a prominent Mayan scholar. And he goes on to read, a pronoun, boom, ya suffix, which is followed by one of two alternative glyphs. The first of these glyphs is the head of Powhatan. This word and this word, one in Virginia, one in Mexico, begins to show how these civilizations stretch. And in both places, they depicted themselves as black. So where are the missing Indians at? Ain't no missing Indians. The missing Indians, the missing Aboriginals are a group of black people who are now called African Americans. And so now I'm gonna help you go further. Some of the culture, us playing cards, the 52 card deck, that came from Mexico. Games similar, the rubber balls that we use for basketball today. These come from actual ball games that were developed here, not in Africa. So when you even get tarot cards, these cards show their antiquity in America. Here is, if I could zoom in on this, I don't know if I can, but you can see the deck of cards placed into what you call a 52 card tarot deck. And this comes directly from the Mayan Zolkin calendar on the right. This is Bishop DeLanda, who first charted these 13 ancestors, which the original card deck was made off of. 13 Mayan ancestors. And this is Bishop DeLanda, and we can, show more of these, but I want to move to more of the pictorial presentations, all right? 3743, I'm just going through my notes. All right, let me go to page 37. All right, here we go. All right, so now what am I looking at here? What you're looking at is the walls of the Temple of Warriors from Chichen Itza. And the book that I first learned this from before I went there is The Temple of Warriors by Earl H. Morris. Temple of Warriors, Earl H. Morris. All right, it has these depictions in it. And his wife.
10 minutes.
Also, say it again.
10 minutes.
Thank you, bro. So these white people who are in Mesoamerica are theorized to be Vikings. That's the first theory that they have here. But this is around between 600 and 900 AD, this period for the Temple of the Warriors. So you have white people here prior to the Columbus expeditions. Now, the reason why this is important is, one, the theory of disease and disease wiping out Native Americans when Columbus came. First of all, these white populations were here upwards of 500 years before Columbus and the other explorers came. Here's more depictions of them from the Temple of Warriors. You can see they were used to row the boats. Here they are. Look at this. Look at this. Look at these depictions. This is the Eurasian type being locked up by the dark-skinned Aboriginals in this area with the feathers who used to dye their hair blonde, like you see Devin Haney and other people and hip-hop artists do today. Epic memory, all right? This is directly from the Temple of Warriors, the dark-skinned Aboriginal natives who have a connection all the way up to Virginia that I just mentioned, locking up these Eurasians and these more Nordic types who are already here and depicted in the scenes. And so that becomes important because it's further depiction of Aboriginals in their proper phenotypical descriptions And then going further, it shows them interacting with white people in a place that you want the primary source, go to the Temple of Warriors. Read the books, but go to the Temple of Warriors so you can see these things as a primary resource for yourself. All right. Now let's go into go to page 100, because I'm skipping around a bit here. I'm dealing mainly with the phenotypes right now, just for a second before I get into more things. All right. Let's keep going. All right, so this is the popular one, all right, Bonham Peck, where we have these murals. And I'm going to say a lot more about these, but I'm just going to show you these for now. All right, these are the temples that they've been found in. The murals are in these little rooms. Now, two things I'm going to bring up about this, because this is an arguing point. These are people locking their hair. And I need you to understand, when I get to the genetics conversation, yes, I'm going to use phenotype to relate to genotype. You cannot make this color skin that's depicted by the primary sources, the artist, without the MC1R gene with no mutations. Which, when we look at the current Mexican population, we're going to ask ourselves a big, big question. How can you go from the Mexicans looking folk today that they depict to this, or from this to the current Mexicans within a span of certain time? You can't. So the hair genetics and the phenotypical genetics will be dealt with. Who are these people? Now, Jabari went on to say that there's no cross-cultural, there's no way that Africans were already here. Brother, you in for a show. All right, what is this I'm showing? I'm showing an Olmec skull that they discovered that dealt with a cultural technique called headbanding. I'm showing right here, South America in the Ica Museum. I'm showing in the mural arts, you can see the cranial elongation. And of course, I'm going to the 18th dynasty where they did head wrapping as well. How did this happen? Was this some kind of mystical interaction? No, it wasn't a mystical interaction. I'll come back to the cotton later, which we grew first. But let me go to page 149 real quick to end up this part of the conversation. All right, let's see. That's not it. 136, actually. Here we go. 136. Here we go. That's not it. Let's see. 136, 147. See if I can find it. I might find it. Oh, here we go. So now there's argument about whether the mummies had cocaine in them. Oh boy, you can argue all you want. This is the original primary source data. All right, so here we go. Here's the tables that I'm about to talk about, this particular doctor, Balabanova. The German research group published their initial findings in 1992. Balabanova, an experienced forensic chemist, used radioimmune assay and gas chromatography, mass spectrometry to identify and confirm the presence of cocaine, which is the important one, nicotine and hashish. Nicotine and hashish, you can't get them from plants in Egypt and the Middle East. Cocaine, you only get from South America, buddy. Sorry. The remains used in this study included 7 mummified heads, all adults, 2 females, 5 males, 1 single complete adult female, 1 incomplete adult male. All the mummies tested were from the Egyptian Museum in Munich, and they had been dated to a period spanning 1070 BC to 395 AD. Cocaine and hashish were also found in all 9 samples, and nicotine was present in all but one of the samples tested. In February 1993, the group published a second and more comprehensive paper in their findings in the Lancet. This included their analysis of 72 Peruvian, 11 Egyptian mummies, and skeletal tissue from the Sudan and South Germany. Their data in Table 1 showed that cocaine, nicotine, and hashish could be identified in samples obtained from some, but not all. All of the Peruvian Egyptian mummies that were tested, they were identified. They also identified nicotine in the bodies of both individuals from the Sudan and 8 out of the 10 individuals from the German Bell culture. The levels of cocaine discovered in the hair of Peruvian mummies were found to be similar to the levels found in modern day German drug addicts. So they're talking about this. Then they give the table and they give the cocaine ratios for Egypt, Peru, and the Sudan. And so Balabanova did a real peer-reviewed study. I don't care what Wikipedia is saying. This is the actual study with the sources here listed so you can see them. All right. And so how did the coca plant get into Egypt? In the other parts of the presentation, I will show they had ship navigation compasses in America that allow for them to spread culture of headbanding, spread plant life and interactions. And I'll prove that Abu Bakari, the brother of Mansa Musa, did reach here with the glyphs, provenant findings of the what we call Arabic or Kufic script all over what we know of as California, Nevada, and all these places. How much time I got?
You got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right. And so in this first part, what I wanted to establish was phenotype and genotype. Linguistic connection between Southeastern natives, the names, and naming their tribes after Mayan and Olmec gods. And to show that this head wrapping culture and the exchange of information between Egypt and Americans is real. And it had nothing to do with post-Columbian activity, because obviously these mummies come from a particular era of time, where if you look at that era of time, you did have at least the Olmec listed as a civilization that was operable at the time. And so now we got to deal with the dates of these particular civilizations and how things came out. I will say this, as we continue throughout this, the myths will fall, and there is an Aboriginal Black population here that has been unaccounted for in Eurocentric curriculums, by the way, which are controlling the schematics of historians like my brother, who are in these particular places, who need to get access to these sources so that they can broaden their horizon and confess to the world that there was a Black civilization here in North, Central, and South America that interacted with African civilizations before Columbus or any other European explorer made any type of interaction whatsoever. So I'll close the rest of my time and pass on to the brother so he can do his rebuttal.
I appreciate that, Chief Ali. Appreciate that.
Take my
Chief
share
Ali.
off. Let me take my share off. So.
Yeah, go ahead. So Jabari, you got anything you want to share before you get started?
Peace, Brother Domo.
Yes, sir.
All right, you can start Jabari time at 23. That way, just let him know when his 3 minutes is up and he's going into his round. That way,
Yes.
keep it going.
Bet.
You got 3 minutes to rebuttal, Jabari. And
Yes.
he gonna let you know when your 3 minutes is up, and you're gonna continue to keep going. That way, you ain't got to stop.
Right.
All right.
All right. Now, Chief
Hey,
Ali
Domo.
said we playing ourselves, calling us Pan-African, Jabari.
Yes, he did.
He said we playing ourselves. So
Yes, he did.
you got your 3 minutes for your rebuttal. Do you want to share anything for your rebuttal, or you want to get right into it?
To share something that is going to be extremely important. Let me go ahead.
Cool.
And share this. Some of you may notice that this is the flyer for the debate. Apparently, Ali Muhammad has not seen it, and he's not familiar with the title. He spent 20 minutes and did not address the topic of this debate. If you believe that basketball, playing cards, the tarot, cocaine, all that stuff came from the West, came from the Americas, that still does not prove, it doesn't even begin to articulate a position as to whether the Black folk that are in this room today are Africans or the Aboriginal American. That none of what he said approaches this topic. This is problematic. He also said that Dr. Ben said some particular things about Africa and Pan-Africa and Pan-Africanism. By the way, he mentions a book. He doesn't give a page number. Come on now. This is scholarship. I'm going to look at the book is right here. So you got to give us a page number. He also said he did some things around the word pan, which I think is quite bizarre. He says that Pan is a Greek deity. And I want to say to you, he's correct. Pan is a Greek deity. Pan is also the name of something that you might cook a piece of fish or a piece of tofu in. Pan is also a large number of things. When people are actually looking for gold in a river, they use a pan. They pan for gold. The word, just because one word is similar to the other does not mean it has anything to do with the other. Here's the etymological dictionary online. Please look here. You're going to see several descriptions of pan coming from patina, coming from to spread. As you look down, pan can also mean when you're moving a camera. Does that have anything to do with a Greek deity? No, it does not. In fact, it comes from panoramic. Here's the one that refers to the Greek god.
1 minute.
And all the way down here is the word forming element, meaning all, ever, whole, all inclusive. And I want you to know that has nothing to do with a Greek deity. You really have to come with better etymological and linguistic wherewithal to be able to address that. He's also saying that cocaine mummies prove that there's interaction between people on the continent and people here. I thought he was saying that we had no interaction with Africa. I thought he was saying that we are not Africans, that we're actually the original people of this land. How does describing any interaction help his argument? I need you to understand that Dr. Ali just wasted around. And I hope you heard it too. This is
right. That's your rebuttal. We got 23 on the clock just to make sure we keep it fair. And whenever you're ready.
Oh, okay. I have a question.
No, he got 20 minutes, Domo.
Yeah, I was about to raise
you
the
said
question.
Questions? There's no questions here.
Okay. When you said add 23, I didn't know if you was. If
no,
you
I
was
was saying add 23 so he can do his 3-minute rebuttal. And
yeah.
Right into his 20 minutes.
I might, but I might.
And I was asking that question, Jabari, because I thought they were giving you a 23-minute round. I wasn't trying to interrupt you.
Yeah, he got 20 minutes.
That's fine. So say like they say in Robert's Rules of Order, point of order, so we understand that it ain't no question. You say, what are we doing here?
Got you. Yeah.
Let me share. By the way, I don't know if we can go straight in because you know, sa.neter, I gotta set up my stuff, man. What you thinking? I would just
Sa, I got it, Sa. 3 minutes and 20 minutes. We good.
My bad, Domo. My bad. You run it. Go ahead. I'm gonna fall back.
You know you live down the block. I'm coming to see you if you do that. Look at that. I want you to take a look at this. And I want you to understand that today I will be talking about whether Black folks came from Aboriginal Americans or were we Africans. And of course, just as a little smart rejoinder to our brother, I included the picture of him with his hat that says Negus and the Africa on the front.
Like the video, thumb up the video.
Is this an instance where we've seen a real life example of body snatchers? Perhaps. These are the 8 keys to the debate. I'm going to go through them very quickly. First, my opponent will ask you to ignore the voluminous data connecting African Americans to Africa, particularly during the enslavement trade. Everything from personal narratives of kidnappings from Africa to bills of sale that describe who was sold, where they were taken from, and where they ended up. Insurance companies describing what they were insuring and who they were insuring. Enslavement dungeons on the west coast of Africa, which I will see in a little bit less than 2 weeks. Enslavement ships. He's going to ask you to pretend those didn't happen, that they don't exist. Descriptions of enslavers. Enslavers tell us where they were going and who they were stealing. How about the papal bulls of the Roman Catholic Church that talk about the regulation of the enslavement trade, which Europeans can go where and who they can take? He's going to ask you to ignore all of these. What about court proceedings between enslavers describing the trade and even enslaved people going to court themselves? He's going to ask you to forget the names in the West of places that people of African descent created and their names that are connected to the continent of Africa, like Africatown in Florida. He's going to ask you to ignore or misrepresent what the heck DNA studies are. And he's also going to ask you to forget that there are names of early Black organizations like the Free African Society that clearly show us that these people knew who they were and they were describing their connection to the continent of Africa. Number two, he'll ask you to depend. This is really important. Please listen to this. He will ask you to depend almost entirely on the drawings by Tamhu or European artists, while ignoring other works that don't display individuals with the darkest skin. He'll also misrepresent descriptions of Europeans describing Native Americans. And I'm going to show you him doing this. He also will try to confuse you by talking about things that are irrelevant, like the etymology of the term Africa, as he just did in the first round. I'm going to tell you very clearly, even if you don't like the term, that doesn't mean you ain't from there. Let's be very clear about that. Even if you don't like the term, that don't mean that you're from there. I was born in Brooklyn on a street named after an enslaver. Simply because I don't like the name of the enslaver doesn't mean that my mother did not raise me on that street. The name of Africa is irrelevant here. I'm prepared to do that with him, but I want him to recognize that as a non sequitur. Number 5, Ali will use images of Mayans without regard for chronology, as he tries to say that the Americas are the ones that gave greatest contributions to civilization. Number 6, he's not going to tell you how or when these dark people became confused about our heritage. We had some sort of collective amnesia. I guess this is like Thanos' snap all of a sudden. The Tamhu, the European, had a Thanos snap, and all of a sudden we forgot where we came from. He's also not going to tell you how these Asians, Austronesians, or Mongoloids got here. How did they get here and when? Are you telling me that they got here and then got abused by Europeans, and they still didn't say, hey, wait a minute. They told us to come here because we were stealing from the Africans that were here, and now they're treating us poorly. They're not going to give up the game? Does that make sense? And the final thing I want you to understand is that I am not disputing that there are people with mixed First Nation and African heritage, but that is mixed heritage. That doesn't mean that they're not African. And Ali will say, as you will hear in a moment, we did not get here from Africa. I want you to remember the term écrit. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. He will give you none. He'll be really articulate and sound very confident, but his evidence is greatly lacking. Let's scrutinize some of what he said already. Almost all of his argument, as I've said, is based on European descriptions of the native people they encountered in North America. And then he's going to insult us and say that we're following Europeans, when almost everything he shows is these Europeans said this and they took this picture of this person. That seems to be okay, but don't use a word in English. Now all of a sudden you're beholden to an enslaver. That don't even make any sense. That does not make any sense. He confidently claims that these Europeans said that the Native Americans they met were Negroes. And I want to ask you, did they? He mentions the Jesuit letters. By the way, he says Jesuit. It's Jesuit, brother. The Jesuit letters and Giovanni Verrazzano's journal. He says he describes the Native American, the First Nation people, as Negroes. He even put it on the screen and didn't even read the whole quote. I'm gonna read the whole quote for you today. And we should say that just because there are drawings of dark-skinned people, does that mean that they are us? Does that mean that they are us? Let's continue.
It wasn't a migration, right? What the period that we are addressing is the period of the Spanish invasion of Mexico, the southern part, southeastern part of the United States, particular islands in the Atlantic, and then all the way down into Central and South America. The explorers, when they went into these areas, recorded the events that were going on in those time periods. The source that I used was the Jesuit letters, all right? But then you can go to other accounts where they're talking about what happened when they went into these areas, right? And so going into these areas, they used phenotypical description of people, and they had different classifications of who was indigenous. Some of the people had red skin, which,
for the sake of time, I'm going to pass there. I want you to understand that he is mentioning the Jesuit letters and Verrazano, and he mentioned them earlier. But do the Jesuit letters say what he says they do? They don't. I want you to recognize that here's a good description of the Jesuit letters in Jack D. Forbes' book, Africans and Native Americans. I'd love to know where he got his source from, particularly because the Jesuit letters he's referring to were not written in English. What language were they written in, dear brother? Do you read that language? Where exactly is your source? If it's the same book, then you're in a lot of trouble. I want you to know really clearly here that Jack Forbes does say that they sometimes, listen to what he says, from 1549 to 1565, the letters of Jesuit missionaries in Brazil usually addressed to colleagues in Portugal or Spain, frequently referred to Americans as Negroes, as well as using terms as genitos, brass, and other forms of Brazilians. That's what he would like you to stay. But I want you to just go all the way down for a second, because for the sake of time, I'm not going to read the entire thing. But he then says, this pattern is repeated time and time again, as we shall see. What does it signify? It would seem that the Indios or Brasis of Brazil were, in fact, both Negroes and Indios, because Indios were a simply special regional kind of Negroes. And I want you to read further down. He even says, when Africans are referred to in the Jesuit letters, they are always called Negros de Guinea, blacks of Guinea, to distinguish them from the Negros de Terra, blacks of the land or the Americas. You can't just, Negro means black. So yes, the Jesuits were saying these people were dark, but they themselves distinguished them from the African. Read the whole source. This is problematic. You know that Jabari's going to check your sources. How about Giovanni Verrazano? He claims that Giovanni says that he finds Negroes or black folks here. This is the source right here. It comes from his written record of his voyage of 1524, and it's recorded in a letter to Francis I, King of France, July 8th, 1524. This is what he says. Since the storm that we encountered in the most northern regions, most serene king.
10 minutes.
Did you say 10?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I have not written to tell your majesty of what happened to the 4 ships that you sent over the ocean to explore new lands. As I thought that you had already been informed of everything, how we were forced by the fury of the winds to return to the distress in Brittany with only the Normandy and the Dauphine. And after undergoing repairs, he goes on and on and on. Then I want you to read the second paragraph. It says, seeing that the land continued south, we decided to turn and skirt it towards the north, where we found the land that we had sighted earlier. So we anchored off the coast and sent the small boat into land. We had seen many peoples coming to the seashore. Listen carefully. But they fled when they saw us approaching. Several times they stopped and turned around to look at us in great wonderment. We reassured them with various signs, and some of them came up, showing great delight at seeing us and marveling at our clothes, appearance, and our whiteness. They showed us by various signs where we could mostly easily secure our boat, and he continues to talk about them. Keep listening. They go completely naked except around their loins. They wear skins of small animals like martens. We're going to go a little bit further down, and it says here, some of them wear garlands of birds' feathers. They are dark in color, not unlike the Ethiopian. That is where he stopped. That's where he stopped. Let's read the rest of the quote. With thick black hair, not very long, tied back behind the head of like a small tail. Let me go a little further down for the sake of time. They have big black eyes and an attentive, open look. They are not very strong, but they have a sharp cunning and are agile and swift runners. From what we could tell from observation, In the last two respects, they resemble the Orientals, particularly those from the farthest Cenarian regions. Family, if we were on YouTube and this was sa.neter's channel, a bomb would drop. This was on the screen. He didn't read it to you. So he's saying they are dark, but he's saying their features resemble the Orientals. Family, he ain't telling you the truth. You gotta question this brother's sources. He speaks so confidently and so articulately, but is what he's saying correct? Look at his sources. Because in a minute, he's gonna have you wondering whether you are something other than who you are. Boy, I'm telling you. By the way, he also talks about some of the drawings of European explorers. He focuses on this a lot. And I want to ask you, should we? Look at this one. This one looks like that person on the left has like frizzy hair, dark skin. Maybe this is someone that he would consider like one of us. This drawing is called Indians of New Netherland, 1671, and is in the New York Public Library. By the way, that's a source. Okay, I'm giving you sources. I even gave you the URLs for some of the things that I'm using. I'm hoping you're noticing I'm giving you sources. I'm telling you page numbers. This is so you can track my sources. I'm not afraid of my sources. My sources are part of historic reconstruction. Anyone who doesn't give you their source is usually hiding something. How about this one? Here's another picture in 1585. Look at this. This one doesn't look like an African. Doesn't look like one of us. I want you to hear something. Those folks in the Aboriginal community that show you the litany of pictures by Europeans that seem to show Black folk like us, they are cherry picking. There are lots of different images. Some of them are darker people, some of them are not. How do you explain the ones that are not? This is a problem that he's going to have. How did these other people get here? If those people are Black folk, where did the other people come from? How did they get here? He's not going to tell you how or when these people got here. But I want you to recognize their cherry picking. And should they? Who's seen this before? And it's not just this one. How about this one? These are European depictions of a group of Africans that they claim lived in southern Sudan called the Blemyes. And they routinely depicted them with faces on their chest, no heads and no necks. Can you simply go on drawings from explorers? Or can there be errors or confusion? Or are they drawing from their own biases? Or are they just simply drawing things because they're familiar with something else? You can't simply just look at their drawings and use it as a major source and then insult us like we're following Europeans when most of your sources are European drawings. I haven't heard too many people call him on this. I don't know why. And this is why I'm going to call him Ali the Glass Jaw Muhammad, because no one has tested that. He got a glass jaw. Now, we don't have a lot of time for me to do this, but I want you to know I'm not saying that African Americans did not merge with Native communities. They didn't have intermarriage. I'm not saying that. We know of people that did. Sometimes people in the audience say, well, I know of some people who are part of Native American nations and they're Black. That means that Ali is right. That is not what Ali is saying. Ali is saying we did not come from Africa. These people who are mixed parentage told us so. Here goes Wildfire Edmonia Lewis. She's a sculptor born to an Afro-Haitian father and an Ojibwe African mother. She was very proud of her African and First Nation heritage. How about Diana Fletcher? By the way, this is one of those images that Dane Calloway uses all the time. I want you to know that we know that she was born to an African who escaped to Florida and a Seminole mother who died in the Trail of Tears. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that these folks, these Aborigines, are trying to take us away from the continent of Africa. This is problematic. This is problematic. Listen to him say in the little time left, we didn't come from Africa. Listen, because I don't want you to think I'm putting words in his mouth. Listen to this.
So the history will be easy. We are the first people on this land, and we did not get here by way of Africa. Okay? It's a very deep subject, but it's actually pretty easy to prove. I'll be able to prove that the current genetic testing models are bogus, of course, because they're using modern Eurasian and Austronesian populations who are now in the various tribes throughout North, South, and Central America. And these people are not the autochthons. They are not the Aboriginals. All right. So this is more about misunderstanding migration patterns in the past, intentionally or by mistake for some. And this is also about not understanding that you can't make locks and dark skin come from the phenotype.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at muting and unmuting.
Of the people who are currently calling themselves Mayans and Native Americans and other groups.
I want to be very clear. I am not putting words in Brother Ali's mouth. He has said that we did not get here from Africa. We did not get here from Africa. He's not talking about groups of us that have intermarried into Native American populations. He's saying that we were always here. That's what he said. And by the way, this ain't old. He filmed this less than 2 weeks ago. Brother Ali's argument is confusing and it don't make no darn sense.
30 seconds.
I really hope that you are going to hold him accountable for his sources, hold him accountable for his fallacious logic, and hold him accountable for the fact that he is speaking ill of Africa. For what reason? For what reason? Because he got confused. Dear brother, I'm going to buy you another Negus hat so that you can put it back on top of your head. Thank you.
And that's Tom. That's Tom. Jabari right there. On the dot, man. I Jabari. Jabari said, man, that them European depictions, he testing your chin with them European depictions.
All right, so I get 3 minutes to do what?
You get 3 minutes to rebuttal.
All right, so I don't want to start yet. I just got to pull up my little sources. Hold on.
Yeah, so yeah, man. So as y'all see, if y'all ain't got one of these, and if you can't see me a pen in your hand, you wasting your time. Y'all should be here learning. Regardless of whatever position the side you on, you hearing the best of the best talk about what y'all believe in. So if you trying to go to whatever channel using this information, you better make sure y'all taking notes. All right, we just waiting on Chief Ali to get ready. Jabari came out swinging, man. He talking about he testing chins, glass jaws, and all of that. We're gonna see how this goes. Get ready for this second round. Well, the end of the first round, because he got, Chief Ali got to do his rebuttal, and then he gonna start that second round. Y'all let us know in the chat how y'all feeling. Let us know in the chat how y'all feeling, what y'all thinking about the convo. Reese said they learning, they getting it in. Tammy said the debate is fire. I'm with that. It's all knowledge. It's all knowledge. And to be honest, this is a better, you know what I'm saying? This is already starting off to be more competitive than that fight last night. Shout out to all y'all who spent y'all money. Shout out to all y'all who spent y'all money.
All right, let's get it, Dr.
All right, y'all ready for me?
Yes, sir. Whenever you're ready.
All right, let's see if I can.
So you get your 3 minutes, then we're gonna reset, get ready for this second round, and you get your 20 minutes.
Hold on 1 second. Let me damn, it's not working, bro. Oh, it should be working now. Trying to share on screen.
Definitely want to make sure the brothers is prepared. All right, we got your screen up, Ali.
Okay, ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first of all, I want y'all to look at the second definition for rhetoric. And this is what Jabari is using. This is his technique. I want to say that first. Language designed to have a persuasive or impressive effect on its audience, but often regarded as lacking in sincerity or meaningful content. So now he also said that I disabused the word Oriental. Oriental, to the context of the term used by the person use it, just means Eastern or Eastern culture. The Orient. The Orient could mean any part of, even parts of East Africa or Asia. That's why what did he say? He called them Ethiopians. Ethiopians to Europeans at the time was considered a part of the Orient. And so what I'm trying to say to you is, when we use it in the present context, we think Oriental, we start thinking Wu-Tang and Shaolin and karate. That's not the context. The context is anybody in the Far East at the contemporary time that we Europeans are understanding the world. And so Jabari is helping me. He quoted I want y'all to, rhetoric now, it's unbelievable. I want y'all to think about this. He quoted that Europeans differentiated the Negroes. They used the same word, but they used different land masses to describe the same word. Brothers and sisters, rhetoric. They didn't say Negro with an adjective to it. They just said Negro. Oh, this Negro is from Guinea, Africa, and this Negro is from the Terra. They look the same. Now he says that I'm using European sources for the pictures. Did I not take you to indigenous sources first? Did I take you to Temple of, say it again?
1 minute.
Okay. Did I not take you to the Temple of Warriors? The Europeans build the Temple of Warriors? The Europeans build Bonham Peck? And he tried to dismiss the cocaine and the connections between the Black Sea and Egypt to say that I'm putting down that continent. First of all, brothers and sisters, he said that I said that ships don't exist. I'm not Dane Calloway. I'm Ali. Oh yes, there were ships. There were ships. I'm not Dane Calloway. Don't group me, brother. And I never said that at any time that there were any ships. And I purposely mention that quote because I'm going to show you on video saying that we don't have any contact between Africans and the Americans. No, we have contact between Black Egyptians and Black Americans that were Aboriginal. Yes, we do. And so the reason why I showed the headbanding and the cocaine is so that source can stick. Oh, I didn't show you. I mentioned Dr. Ben. I didn't show you.
That's time on the rebuttal. You can pick it up in your 20 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so that's on the rebuttal. All right, so let me get ready for my next part. Thank you for that.
The show. Let's go ahead and get this 20 minutes. This is the top of round two.
Second round, right? Yep.
Yes, sir. The top of round two.
All right. Let me go to my sources so we can get this cracking. All right,
You know, you got to show him that shoulder roll, Ali. He said you got that glass jaw. You got to show him the shoulder roll.
Oh my God. All right. So let me go 31.
Hey, I know how it is. Once this finished, this is an early debate. So the after party gonna be cracking for a while. So I know how I get down once this finished.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm just trying to open my files and then we can get busy.
All good, all good.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, also we got the polls. Y'all pay attention to the polls. We got the question and answer portion. I think Sister Juju is on the question and answer. So if y'all got any questions y'all want to put in into the Zoom, that is also available.
There we go. I'll go ahead. I don't see y'all. Okay, there we go. All right, we ready?
Ali? Yeah, we see your screen. And whenever you're ready, 20 minutes.
All right, so let's continue with this conversation, because one of the things I want to point out is a big contention that I have is that Aboriginals and Africans were interacting for quite some time prior to any Europeans interacting, and that interaction continued independent of Europeans in the colonies and the states. I'm showing you a 1834 map of the United States so you can understand where Mexico is because of what I'm about to read. Mexico covered California. It covered what is Nevada. It covered the American Southwest, because the inscriptions and stuff that I'm about to show you are in this area that was not under US control in 1834. But when the Europeans are talking about this area, they tell you who ruled this area at this time. So let's go to it. All right. First, I'm gonna go to some inscriptions, and I'm gonna go to the Mansa Musa Abu Bakari point to highlight what's been found. And this is all from a book put together by a Harvard professor, Dr. Barry Fell. It's called Saga America. All right. So put that up there for y'all. And like I did show when I showed Dr. Ben Blackman in the Now, the source was on the page number. I just mentioned the book. So if you're looking at the slide and I don't mention the page number, doesn't mean I'm not saying the page number. I'm moving fast and swift. Let's go. So this inscription, Shaitan Maha Ma'an. Satan is the fount of lies, reads the classical Kufic inscription some 2 feet across on a boulder on the western slope of Bohemian Polk in the White Mountains near Benton on the border of Nevada and California. The style of script indicates a date after the 7th century AD. Unknown scribe was a Muslim. This is the anthropologist talking about it. The inscription was discovered in 1951, probably to be associated with Gladden's red pottery people who entered that plateau. And so they were thinking it was Native American inscription. Then they found out that we had this Islamic inscriptions in Nevada. And that's not the only one. Let's go to other ones. Matter of fact, let me just go into the book so I can give you all of them. Now I'm making this connection. This is important. This is super, super important. Here's another one. All right. This inscription right here. All right. Ancient Kufic script was employed for the Kara, now misnamed Arabic language, before the modern Arabic came into general use. This example dates from approximately 700 AD and occurs in Nevada. Now this, according to them, is earlier. So don't let him come with the rhetoric to say I used a source before Abu Bakari, because the last one I used was not before, and other subsequent ones I'm about to use. But this is dated, according to them, at 700 AD, where it was mistaken for American Indian markings. That's what they thought this was. But I can read this, all right? Nun, Ba, Ya, Nabi, Alif, Lam, Lam, Ha, Allah, Mim, Ha, Mim, Dal, Muhammad. Muhammad is Allah's Nabi, prophet. And this was cut into the rock in Nevada. So let me show you why this was happening. No, let me go here. Let me go here. This is records from the government of Georgia, 1847. Source right here, speech on the Mexican War. Remember what Mexico was? The Mexican War, House of Representatives, 1846. So this is about approximately 10 years after that map is depicted. Vintage map of the United States of Mexico. So here are his quotes. I'm gonna blow them up so you can see them. He states, the stupendous deserts between the Nueces and the Bravo, the Rio Grande del Norte, the rivers are natural borders between the Anglo-Saxon and the Mauritanian races. Now, when you think about Mauritania, that's a country in Africa. It got its official start as a nation state in 1845. If you quote me on that, I'll correct myself in another round. But why is he calling it the Mauritanian races in the area he's about to describe? This is a representative of government from Georgia. There is the Valley of the West. There, Mexico, the one I just pointed out, begins. Thence beyond the Bravo begin the Moorish people and their Indian associates. Wait a minute. What are Moors and Aboriginals doing in that big part of Mexico where I'm showing you inscriptions from? And the only Moors that we know, or Muslims that we know conventionally, who were saying they made these trips was Mansa Musa and Abu Bakari, saying they took ships somewhere, and then what happened to the ships? Then all of these Islamic scripts start popping out over Mexico in alliance. And I'm going to show you that these Muslims and the Aboriginals were using Mayan mathematics with the dot and bar symbols to do mathematics. They had developed schools in this area. But let me keep reading. The Moorish people and their Indian associates, to whom Mexico properly, what? To whom Mexico properly belongs? Wait a minute. Let me go back to the map for a second. Let's get a visual on this. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean, Mexico? This is an official of government in the United States saying this area right here, this area right here belongs to the Moors and the Aboriginals or the Indians together? What were they doing out there? Where are these scripts from? Were these Arab, pale Arab phenotypical people in Mexico? What are the descriptions? How come California has the same name as the Caliph? The Caliph is the Islamic leader. Yeah, I did it, Jabari. Call me pseudo, but they're here and they have language scripts and writing here. Yeah, you ain't gonna be able to get into this. And so what I'm pointing out to you is they're telling you who rules Mexico. This is Mexico. This is territory. All this territory is territory that white folks have not invaded and taken over. Texas didn't even exist. And so stop that share and go back to the book, because this boy don't know who he's dealing with. Now he's the one who started making pokes at the bear, right? I'm about to poke all the way out. So Mexico properly belongs. Who should not cross that vast desert if they could, as on our side, we too ought stop there, because the interminable conflicts must ensue from either our going south or their coming north of that gigantic boundary. So he's talking about those particular boundaries. And he's saying the Moors and the Indians, or the Moors, I don't like to use the word Indians, I prefer Aboriginal. Indians is a misnomer. Aboriginal has a better explanation. So that's why I'm using that particular term. But let's go further. The paint that is used to make the Maya blue on the walls comes from where? I have two sources on this. And the sources talk about the Attapulgite clay from Georgia and the azurite, which is this blue stone right here on the left, which is mainly in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona area. And it shows up here in Bonham Peck on the walls. All right. And so what I'm saying is this network existed. As a matter of fact, let me pull my source on the Attapulgite right now and the Maya blue, so I'll get called crazy. But before I do that, let me put a pin in that right there, Maya blue. Before I do that, I want to stay in this chronology of discussion. This is the same place in Nevada they find in inscriptions. Basic geometry was taught in the ancient Nevada schools by empirical methods. In this petroglyph, also from the Marcino site, which seems to have been the location of a mathematical center, a triangle is shown of height 6 units and base 5 units. The area can be estimated by counting the complete squares plus the partial squares that are equal or greater than a half, yielding the result, 15. Who wrote like this? It's done. Shown by the 3 bars at the bottom right, each bar representing what? 5. Okay, so let me stop right here. And I'm gonna go to who writes their bars in 5. Let's see. I had to pull this one up.
Let me know if you need your time stop.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm good. Just keep it going, bro. It's all good. I'm just pulling something up. I ain't gonna trip about that. Let's go. Who writes their bars in 5s? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nevada. Math schools with Mayans or Aboriginals and Moors from a Harvard professor, published in books that I didn't write. In Mexico, which the government of Georgia said the Aboriginals and the Moors owned. Jabari, Cornell cannot give you this. Jabari, there's no Pan-African institute in the world who can teach you this. I promise you a scholarship to Aboriginal University. I'm breaking my promise. He basically called me a pseudo just now in sweet, elegant rhetoric form in Cornell's speech. My brother, these are books you have not read. And I have not slapped you yet. In the next round, I'm gonna slap you. I'm gonna calm back down so I can get the rest of this data out. But in the next round, Jabari is about to get pile drive on top of an unk.
9 minutes.
Now let's turn the heat up a little bit more. We got to turn the heat up a little bit more. I don't like the way that this is going. I got to get this in Ali mode. Now let's go back to what he tried to say about my presentation. Let's go back. This is a source, hearings before the Joint Commission of Congress of the United States, 63rd Congress to investigate the Indian affairs. And here down, I quote it right here, but they're talking about the Embassy Indians. And they're telling you that they also were Negroes. Brazil is saying Negroes. The Yamasee are in North America, in the Southeast. Now they're Negroes. The Powhatan, who I put next to a glyph to show you these routes. This is not no made up spook shit. Excuse my language, spook stuff. This is truth. Here is Powhatan from the she glyphs. I'm gonna start calling them by their real names. And here is Powhatan depicted in the first images given by the English. And I will re-quote it because now the Powhatan are Negroes. This is the American Southeast using Mayan language to describe their tribe. Oh, just because someone is dark-skinned doesn't mean these are people who are in Mexico. No, this is where we lived at in the South, where we picked cotton at. By the way, cotton that was first grown in Mexico. I bleeped by that. I'll come back to that. But the Powhatan was more like a devil than a man with 200 more as black as himself. Do not let Jabari get away with rhetoric. Let's go. Temple of the Warriors again. They said we committed sacrifice. I don't know if it was sacrifice or not in detail, but if you have foreigners coming into your land, these 3 right here are saying, no, you're not. This is one very dark man holding him down. This is another one, and he got an axe. His face wasn't shown, but they was good enough to show his arm. These are invaders. So now he did this. Oh, they have pictures of others too. Remember he did this? Let me go back to my depictions. They had pictures of others too. Sure, they had pictures of others, Jabari. Didn't I cover that? I said whites came here with the Vikings, Eurasians came, but when everybody came, who did they find? Let me go back to my source. Here's my delays for the audience. I'm using the book instead of my slides because I didn't want to move through the slides like this. These depictions. Right here. Who is this? Yeah, these are the Eurasians who came here, and there's different theories. Was it the Bering Strait? Did they come on boats? The Codex Boturini, which I'm about to show you, says they came on boats. That's the indigenous codex. Scientists say, oh, they came across the Bering Strait. I don't care. When they came here, this is who they saw. So we got three different people here. The autochtons, the aboriginals, which I'm showing here, an invader group, which came at a later date, who are immigrants, and some other immigrants in two waves.
5 minutes.
Shown at the Temple of the Warriors and shown at in the post-Columbus epoch. Now, let me go a little bit further. Let me jack this up. This is from the book, The Maya Cosmos, by a credited Mayan scholar, Linda Shalin. Is this African writing that I'm about to show you? Let's talk about it. They're talking about the calendar. This is Koba Stele number 1, a place you can go visit. They're talking about how the Mayans saw how old they were from the creation date that they're given. Each of the years called a tune by the Maya in these dates is composed of 360 days. If we return to the creation date with this 20 cycle set at 13, we see that it will take 41 octillion years, tunes, for the highest cycle to change from 13 to 1. So here it is. This is what they're saying right here. So they say our universe is 13 something billion, then they changed it now to 26 billion. They're saying 41 octillion, and they put it into their astronomy. This is not African writing. This is Black people writing with calendars that are not African. And who developed it? We did. Let me go a little bit further. Where is this next slide? All right, another image of the writing. This is the Mackenzak stele, just telling, they're talking about creation. But this is the important part. When you see the word Amaru being used, the word Amaru, and this is South American now, but they had a different name for it, Kukulkan. This is the serpent, the feathered serpent, Draco. In the next round, I'll be able to show you the codexes, but they were charting the precession of the equinoxes in their calendar, which is a 25,000 year calendar. This was done right here on this land in America. And what I will be able to show from these calendars and from the language is that none of this was African. And how much time does it take to develop this? When I get to the pyramids here that took over 15 million hours of man labor to build, different people who did interact, but a different culture of Black people. And the question of where they come from comes later. The question is, are they us? And I'm answering this question from the southeast of North America to Mexico, and Jabari is using rhetoric to attempt to defeat my points. Let me go further. And this is what I'm going to talk about in the last time. I was supposed to do a debate with SETI, and I was talking about a continent in the Pacific
2 minutes.
Ocean. Say it again.
2 minutes.
Well, I'm closing on this point because I'm going to come back. I was supposed to do a debate with SETI years ago, and I was talking about a continent in the Pacific, and he thought I was using James Churchward and Augustus Lepongen's information. No, geologists. They discovered the 8th continent. Not only did they discover the 8th continent, north of this, they discovered buried cities with pyramids that I'm going to show you. Then the biggest thing comes is we have this map, yes, from the Ica stones, which are controversial, because some of them are fake, but some of them were faked after the original ones. This is their map. And here you have North America, South America. What is the western part of Africa, which was disconnected from the plate. And this is the continent in the Pacific. And I'll go through this to start talking about the antiquity of how these things developed over time. I'm going to come to this in my next round to get into that and the genetics and the migration patterns and all of this and how we were already here. But this is from the Ica stones. And these stones predated Javier Cabrera's finds. I have the book here that I had to write to the museum to get. You couldn't even get this in America until about maybe 2015. The book was originally written in 1976. And so that's going to be controversy, but I'm baking them into it so I can body slam them in the next round. And let me tell y'all this. What I'm showing you. Thank you. I'll stop.
All right, Jabari. You did it. You poked the bear. He up. Now you got to deal with it. Now you got to
take my screen share off. Let me take my screen share. Oh, it's already off.
Yeah. You down. You down.
Okay.
So y'all know how we do. 3 minutes.
I gotta start here.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
He's been debating me right now. I don't even know. Listen, he's simply saying maybe Black people came here. But the argument is, are we the people that were always here, or are we the Africans? Now he's telling you that he found Islamic language here. Did Islam start here, or did Islam start closer to Africa? Are you saying that ancient Africans made the journey here? Are you even making an argument right now? Or have you completely fallen off your seat? Because the best he is arguing right now is that Africans got here earlier. But you heard him say we didn't get here from Africa. Then how did the Arabic get here? If I want to support what he said, he has fallen on his own sword. I hope y'all are paying attention. Ali, I thought you were going to do better than this. You're disappointing me now. You're not making an argument. If you see Islam in the New World, are you telling me that Islam, that the Arabic language was developed here? Or are you saying that Africans journeyed from someplace else earlier? I showed you the video where he said that we didn't get here from Africa. He is contradicting himself. Are you on Team Jabari? Please tell the people that I didn't pay you to throw the debate. Because right now they're thinking that I paid you to throw the debate. He also said that I said that he should no longer use the word Oriental. I never said that. I never said that. And he tried to say Oriental just means from the East. The reason why it's a derogatory term today, Ali, is because Europeans in London decided where everyone would be in the world based on where they were. So they're in the Far East based on where London is. Why should the entire world be described according to where London is? You don't even know that. Brother, I need you in my history class. You have an erudite mind, but it's untrained. I can't believe he said that. By the way, let me say this to you. Let's go on a thought experiment for a second. Let's say that a plane from Sweden crash landed in Nigeria.
30 seconds.
Does that mean now that because one plane went to Nigeria, that now all of the Nigerians are Swedish? Or even if I was going to stipulate that Abubakari II made it to the Americas, no one would argue that his boats, the few he took with him, would have actually repopulated the entire region. You're not making an argument. And it still came from Africa. You said we didn't come from Africa. You are he's defeating himself, Domo. I don't even know what to say. He's not even arguing anymore.
All right, Tom. That's the rebuttal.
What is happening here?
All right, you got your 20 minutes to break it down, Jabari. Let me know when you're ready.
I will. Let me do that. I don't even understand what's happening right now.
Y'all put it in the chat. Tell us how y'all feeling. Don't forget, we got the questions. Juju answering the questions. And we got the after party after this. We still got one more round after this, though. So
my argument. He's making my argument. He's saying we're Africans. Right now, he's just agreeing on when we got here. Anyway, let's take a look. Okay, let's take a look. I want to prove to you that African Americans are from Africa. Someone in the chat said, I wonder, Jabari didn't tell us how we got here. By the way, you know how we got here. Everyone knows that. It's Ali that has the extreme burden of proof to prove how we got here. But I'm going to do that anyway. Take a look at this. I want you to know that I told you what he was going to do. I mean, I dug a hole and said, here, Ali, here's the hole. And Ali still walked into the hole. And then he dug another hole in the hole and fell into that one. I told you that he was going to use mostly European depictions of who they saw. That's what he did. I told you he was going to show you a bunch of images drawn by Europeans. That's what he did. And then he says that we didn't come from Africa, and he's arguing we did come from Africa. What is happening here? He's ignoring the voluminous record. I don't even know if I have to do this because he's making my argument, but he's ignoring the voluminous record that proves who we are. Take a look at this. History is not simply a story we tell ourselves. It must be reconstructed with evidence. And Aborigines want us to believe a baseless argument while ignoring many points proving the transatlantic enslavement of Africans. We have eyewitness accounts of Africans who describe what happened. We have eyewitness accounts of Europeans in the time who describe what happened. We have papal bulls. We have international treaties, both with African nations and with European nations describing the trade. We have records of war between Africans and Europeans, between European nations and enslavement artifacts of Africans clinging to Africa, and linguistic evidence. Here's one. Take a look at Osaze Gronesaw, and he authors an autobiography in 1772. He was a prince from northeast Nigeria, Bornu, and he describes how he was kidnapped by an ivory merchant, sold to the Dutch, and then to Americans. He ends up in New York and then to London. Look at the cover of the book. He calls himself James Albert Gronesaw, Osaze Gronesaw, an African prince, written by himself. He's telling you who he is. When the cover of a book written by an African is a source that daggers your opponent, he's in trouble. He's in trouble. How about the description of Josiah Henson, who unfortunately has been misrepresented as they talk about Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom was not an Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom was a revolutionary. Uncle Tom was a powerful African. It is the European that wants us to believe that Uncle Tom was a sellout. Listen to what he says in his autobiography, The Life of Josiah Henson. By the way, here's a copy of it. Where did I buy this copy? This cute little copy. I went to his home in Ontario, Canada. And that's where I got the copy of the book. That's the kind of research that I'm begging that we do. And we can do this research. So listen to what he says. He says, my enslaver sent, I added enslaver, okay? That's why you see brackets. Sent out an agent to sell all his slaves but me and my family, and to carry back the proceeds to him. And now another of those heart-rending scenes was to be witnessed, which had impressed itself so deeply on my childish soul. Husbands and wives, parents and children were separated forever. Affections which are so strong in the African as in the European were to be cruelly disregarded and iron selfishly generated by the hateful institution. This is Josiah Henson in 1849 saying that the people who were enslaved were Africans. We're Africans. He knows who he is. How did we, if he doesn't know who he is, how did he get confused about being an African? He's saying that all those people who were enslaved were Africans, and we felt as strongly about our families as the European did. That's what he writes himself in his autobiography, pages 28 to 29. I'm giving you the year, I'm giving you the page. By the way, you did not give us the page in Dr. Ben's book, and that's in your book. I'm worried about you. Okay, how about Reverend Pasco G. Hill as he describes his journey on an enslavement ship traveling in the Mozambique Channel? in 1843. The entire book, 50 Days Aboard a Slave Vessel, is actually about how he saw these Africans. Here's the book. Here's the book. How he saw these Africans who were treated so poorly and taken to the New World. Published in 1843. I'm sorry, published in 1848. He describes what happened in 1843. How about the Papal Bulls? I told you I was going to tell you about the Papal Bulls. Look for Dum Diveras, which was issued in 1452 by Pope Nicholas V to the Portuguese, and Pope Alexander VI later issues what are called the Inter Paratera in 1493. And this is when, by the way, you should know that the first one says the Portuguese can enslave. The second one extends enslavement into the Americas. These are the papal bulls that the Roman Catholic Church utilized to regulate which European nations would go where, so they would not be in conflict with each other. If they're telling you that this happened and they're regulating what happened, this is actually a record from the 15th century of Africans being enslaved. How about Father Bartolomé de las Casas, who traveled to the New World in 1502? I know Ali is familiar with Bartolomé de las Casas because he spends a lot of time talking about the horrors that the Spanish placed on the Arawak people. And in his book, he says that the Spanish should no longer harm the native people, but that they should enslave the African because they have no soul. Here's the image of the horrors that the Spanish placed upon the native people from an etching in his book. There are lots of descriptions. You can just ignore them? How about the laws? The Slave Act of 1794, the Slave Act of 1807. In 1910, there's an Anglo-Portuguese treaty. All of these describe the African. The African. This is 1813. My one disappeared somehow. 1813 Anglo-Swedish treaty. The Treaty of Paris in 1814 between France and Britain. The 1814 Anglo-Netherlands Treaty. All of these describe the enslavement of Africans who have been taken from the continent. And of course, we even have the descriptions of records involving the trade, some of them by Africans themselves. How about the story of Queen Nzinga? I know you're familiar with Nzinga. She's fighting the Portuguese, who are enslavers. I mean, have you read her record? How about the sinking of the Spanish Armada by the British? They explain that they were sinking it so they can take control of the African trade. How about the enslavement artifacts that we see on the continent of Africa and in the West? Why are they in those two places? African burial ground. We actually see African beads in the African burial ground. We see cultural practices that were specific to Africans. The African burial ground is right here in New York City. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I don't know if this video will get sa.neter's video when he puts it up bumped. But I want you to look at this book called The Story of English. It describes the fact that the way that African Americans speak English today actually helps us recognize that we are receiving what linguists call interference from African languages. That means that we're speaking English in the way that Africans spoke their original languages and brought words with us. Coffee, tote. I'm not going to play it. Here, let's look at more. How about the proof of enslavement and African?
Play it if you want. You can play it if you want.
I can?
Yeah, we're on Zoom. We're on Zoom.
Let's play it. I'm going to play it then. Take a listen.
The cruel process that brought Africa and America into collision has enriched our language with everyday turns of phrase like nitty-gritty. And you can hear the African past in Martha's English when she uses words like voodoo, banana, banjo, or the African word meaning to carry, tote.
I just love to tote it on my head. And I learned that from toting wood on my head. Well, I think that's all my job, anyway. By cleaning and toting things on the head like that. A man, I'll tote them on the shoulder, but a woman tote them on the head.
I mean, listen, by the way, when I go to Africa, when I go to Ghana, I'm going to see women toting things on their head. She's talking about the way that women carry things.
10 minutes.
I want you to understand that our cultural understanding of our Africanness was not destroyed. We just simply used our understanding of who we were as Africans to do English, to do the things that we normally do, but they're directly connected to the things that people do on the west coast of Africa. Ali wants us to ignore all of this, all of it. How about this? Look at this ad. This is a 1763 ad for a Newport ad for the sale of Africans from the Gold Coast. Look at this. Newport, June 6th, 1763. On Thursday, half arrived from the coast of Africa, the brig Royal Charlotte, with a parcel of extremely fine, healthy, well-limbed Gold Coast slaves. We see these ads. This is 1763. This is before the United States becomes the United States. Ads that describe that Africans were being brought here. I know that this is painful and horrific. That doesn't mean that we need to erase it and then go on some sort of fairy tale. It happened. And the record is voluminous. It is there. We have bills of sales of humans that describe Africans being sold. We have enslavement ships. I'm going there. Records of revolt on board enslavement ships where they talk about Africans revolting. Oral histories, once again, DNA evidence, enslavement dungeons, African names given to places inhabited by Africans, maroon settlements where they describe themselves as Africans, and insurance policies. Take a look at these here, two more ads. This is a 1787 ad and a 1792 ad for the sale of enslavement ships. Wait a minute, Jabari. They didn't just put ads saying they were selling people. Yes, because they also sold ships. Just like you would sell a used car today, they sold used ships. Take a look at this one. At the Exchange Coffee House this present Saturday, 2nd of June at 1 o'clock. By the way, it says, as you can see, 1787, the ship Juba. And it says, it sails remarkably and is well calculated for the what? For the Africa trade. We have these ads. If we didn't come from Africa, what are they advertising? You heard Ali say we didn't come from Africa. By the way, he's confused. I think he's punch drunk. Because then he said we did come from Africa just earlier. But then you heard him say we didn't come from Africa. Which is it, Ali? Which is it? In the 1792 ad, it says, for sale by auction at the Exchange Coffee House on Thursday, on the 15th of March, 1 o'clock, the ship Catherine, with all her stores as per inventory, lately employed to the trade to Charleston. They're telling you where it came from. It's employed. It was going to Charleston. By the way, Charleston is where? In Ali's home state. Maybe one of his ancestors came on this. He's ignoring them now. I will pour libation for them for you, Ali. It says burthen 180 tons per register, a very prime sailor fit for the African or South Sea trade. They're telling you that there was trading going on there. We know this. We have the records. I'm not going to go through this part. I'm going to say it very quickly. Sometimes people in Aboriginal movement say that the slave ships are missing. And I just want you to know, usually when enslavement ships go out of commission, they're broken down for their constituent parts, just like cars. And I've shown this image to sa.neter many times. This is an image from my house, the house that Anika and I own. This is it right here. And if you look in front of it, you see an old car. You don't see those sitting around anymore. Should you expect to see enslavement ships just sitting in dock hundreds of years, over 100 years? The ones that we find are the ones that usually sank. And we'd have found them. How about we know people, there's
5 minutes.
There's a group called Diving with a Purpose. Diving with a Purpose. They just came out with a book. Folks, you know that if you're talking to Jabari, Jabari's going to tell you about a book. That's who I am. And I really hope that you are getting them. Read it. Here it is. Just finished. It's an amazing book. It's called Enslaved: The Sunken History of the Transatlantic Enslavement Trade. It describes how Black divers are going to look for the ships. We even know that they have found at least 7 of them. Take a look at this one. Here's the slave ship Guerrero. This article was in Florida today. What date is it? It's August 17th, 2015. That's when they described the slave ship Guerrero. By the way, Diving with a Purpose has found the Henrietta Marie in 1993. It was wrecked off the coast of Florida in 1700 to a return route to England in the transatlantic trade. You know that people came certain places and other goods went other places. We know what the Henrietta Marie did. Look at the Black divers looking at the masthead of the Henrietta Marie. These have been discovered. Take a listen. I'm going to play this, and I don't think you'll get bumped for this, sa.neter. This, once again, is a description of the discovery of an enslavement ship. If we didn't come from Africa, what were these ships doing? We know what they were doing. We have records of them. Listen.
The Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture will display objects from a slave ship that sank off the coast of Cape Town in 1794. The artifacts were retrieved this year from the wreck site of a Portuguese slave ship that sank on its way to Brazil while carrying more than 400 enslaved Africans from Mozambique. Objects recovered from the ship, called the São José Paquete de Africa, include iron ballasts used to weight the ship down and copper fastenings that held the structure of the ship together. Lonnie,
I'm going to end it there just for time. I want you to understand it was Diving with a Purpose. These are Black divers that are looking for these. Who else should be looking for them? How about enslavement revolts? We have the story of the death of Captain Ferrer, the captain of the Amistad. Y'all all know about the Amistad. How can Ali with a straight face tell you we didn't get here from Africa when there's even been a major picture, all kinds of evidence, a court record of Africans being taken from Africa? There are about 420 revolts that have been documented. 2 minutes. And it's estimated that 100,000 Africans died in these uprisings. We fought. There are records of these. Should I do this to you now? I'm not going to even I'm going to wait for this. I want you to know that the experts in DNA, not the brother that's sitting there with the hat on, the experts in DNA have actually looked at the DNA of African Americans. He's going to try to say all kinds of stuff about them. These are the experts. What did they find when they looked at the DNA of Black folks? Did they find connections to Africa? Did they find connections to Native Americans? What did they find? Not going to play it now. I just want you to know that this is common. How about the enslavement dungeons in Ghana? I'm going to be there in less than 2 weeks. Unfortunately. Do you see this cell right here, the wasting cell? There is now a plaque that has my name and Anika's name saying, "We returned." There's a plaque there now. This is in the Amina slave dungeon in Ghana, built by the Portuguese in 1482. Do you think they had records of where they were taking enslaved Africans? You better believe they did. What about this structure? We know what the structure was for. How about Congo Square? There are places all over the United States where Africans were able to get some control and
30 seconds.
Things that connected to their continent. There's a Congo Square in Philadelphia. There's a Congo Square in New York. There's a Congo Square in Florida. These are Africans saying, we know who we are. And you want to know, this one is from 1819, and as many as 500 to 600 people used to go and dance there. We know who they are. We know who we are. Let's stop pretending.
All right, that is Tom. That is Tom in the Jabari's second 20-minute round. Now, Chief Ali, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like Jabari said he gonna pour out something for your ancestors. Correct. I mean, I don't know if I'm tripping when I heard that, but he said he sounded like he gonna pull out something for your ancestors. You don't look like the type of man that is just.
I'll accept that because libations happen all across the world.
Right.
I wonder who started libations. Y'all really want to get on that?
All right. Wait, hold on. You got 3 minutes. You got 3 minute rebuttal. Hold on. Let me get your time right.
Wait. Let me get my slides up because my 3 minutes might be an ether. Hold on.
All right. Let me know when you're ready.
Hold on, bro.
Let me know when you're ready.
This is about.
We at the bottom of the second round. When Chief Ali starts his 20-minute speech, that'll be the beginning of our last round, our third round. And then we'll be approaching the cross-examination portion and then the 5-minute closing to close it out. So you just let me know when you're ready.
Okay, hold on 1 second. All right.
Already said, I'm gonna post something out for yo people. Okay.
Let me see.
Yeah, don't forget, we got the polls lined up for you. You can ask the questions in the chat. I can see your in the polls. I can see your screen, so you just let me know when you're ready.
I am ready. All right, so can I just start?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now Jabari doesn't get what I'm talking. I'm trying to raise him to a higher elevation of conversation. This is not about slavery. This is about identity and remedy. And so Africans sold some of their own people into slavery. Aboriginals enslaved white people, and I showed you on the walls of the temples. Everybody been enslaving everybody. That needs to be understood. But here we have, I'm glad you mentioned the Portuguese, because this 1819 photo by Gottlieb, right here, this is the source, that's also stored at the John Carter Brown Archives, shows what? A Portuguese that's dark-skinned and jet black. He was not a slave. He's coming to Suriname in South America to talk to other natives. So who is he? How did he get prestige amongst the Portuguese to come across the ship not as a slave? And by the way, the people in Suriname right now are enslaved. So this black, whoever he is, working with the Portuguese, also was a slaver. This is not about slavery. This is about identity and remedy. And so these Africans, if he was African, I can't prove he was African. It's a picture and it's denoting he was with the Portuguese. I would think that he's probably what you call African. They wouldn't call themselves African at the time, but they had different names. This is a dart to your whole argument. Now, let me go further. Let me go to the codexes in Mexico, because you're making this about the wrong argument. This is about, are we Aboriginal or not? To hear. And the base population for North America. So let me go to page 203. Excuse me, 302. Oh, yeah, here we go. All right, so what do you have here? This is the Tellerano Menensis Codex. These are Negroes who are ruling in Mexico, hanging an African who tried to bring Christianity with the Spanish to their lands. And you can tell right here, you can see, all right, the word Los Negros en la Ciudad de Mexico.
30 seconds.
These are, they're lynching him. And lastly, so I'll save this next part. I'll stay here. Brother, you are missing the point. These are Aboriginals from America This is an Aboriginal from what we're calling Africa. He got his ass licked for trying to bring the European system into our city, which at that time was called Ciudad de Mexico, our city. And so, bro, you got a problem, bro, on your hands. You're not understanding the argument here, bro.
Tom, that is the rebuttal. Let's go ahead and get into this final round. We see Chief Ali in God body mode.
Okay, so now we got 20 minutes, right? I got to continue on this point, though, before I want to go to my next part, because he brought up the genetics, and he said
however you want to do it.
We about to hit that. That's where we about to go real hard. So
right,
let me get myself ready.
Okay, bet.
Ready, and then we're going to jump right into this.
Bet.
All right.
Now again, cross-examination will be after this final round. After they both get their last 20 minutes, Chief Ali will get the last rebuttal. And then, like we said, we're gonna see how these 3 questions go. They get a minute apiece to answer those.
You know what? I'm gonna go to the original text. Let me go to the actual source outside of my book, because this will help me see it properly.
Now, while we go into this third round, I want to let y'all know, anybody that been paying attention, as y'all can see, these scholars have properly sourced their information. If you go back, if you're watching, if you're taking notes, all you got to do is go to the bottom of where they reading, and you can go exactly to what they read. So shout out to the real scholarship. Like we said, it's high level, it's heavyweight. Everybody don't move like that. Everybody don't properly source. So we in here.
This. Okay.
All right, you sharing your screen?
Wait, I'm trying to pull up my stuff and then I'm gonna come to it. Hold on one sec.
Okay, bet.
All right.
We got the poll up, so y'all definitely make sure y'all tapped in. We got the questions if y'all asking any of those. And then we got the after party. It's a little earlier, and it's a little earlier in the day. So Sai gonna have the energy for y'all.
Gotta make this smaller. Damn, I can't make this smaller so you can see the source, but I'll go back to my book for it. All right. Can y'all see my screen?
You can probably scroll if you go up to the top, because it's in 100%. If you go up to the top.
Oh, yeah. There you go. There you go. Let me come out real quick. All right. Boom. All right. I am ready to get this cooking. So, ready? All right, let's go. All right, so now, on these points about this is really not about slavery, it is partially for the explanation, but I showed you that they call the Yamasees Negroes, right? And I want to go back to the slave trade and the ports that are in a place where I grew up. I grew up in South Carolina, but I want to highlight something. And this is, you can see the source. This is the source right here. Them talking about the Yamasee War, which almost killed all the white people in South Carolina. All right, so let me go to this where they're talking about the Indian slave trade or the Aboriginal slave trade, if you want to correct them. All right, so let's blow this up. All right, so they're talking about the research, and the Yamasee were being enslaved too. These are Negroes now. Yamasees are Negroes that are indigenous to here, and they're being enslaved in the South with other tribes. But this is what they say. Gallay's research furthered the argument that most Indian slaves sold in Charleston markets. Wait a minute. Charleston, South Carolina, where he's showing sources possibly for slaves that come from Africa, also had Negroes who are Yamasees being sold in those same markets. Hold on, let me read this again. This is what I'm reading from. Gallay's research furthered the argument that most Indian slaves sold in the Charleston markets were later traded to other colonies. He asserted that the population estimated by Ramsey was but a small fraction of the total number of slaves taken during this period. And this is a group of anthropologists hired by the South Carolina government to publish this. Based on transport records following major military campaigns described above and trader accounts, Gallay 2002, estimated the total of Indian slaves that were taken between 1670 and 1715 to be between 24,000 and 51,000 individuals. Indian slave trades, people who were being called Negroes. He believed that a large percentage of the trade in Indian slaves was purposefully left undocumented in order to keep secret. What secret? An important commodity that was regulated and taxed by the mother country when obtained from Africa. So there were slaves coming from Africa. There were Negroes, but there were Negroes who were here who were being enslaved, who are a part of the Indian slave trade. And at this time, in 1715, their numbers were way more than what was coming from Africa at this particular time, 51,000 individuals. Now, let me keep going on this particular report because I want to highlight something else. When these Black natives came in, this is how they were described. Charleston, a merchant in 1715, letter to his employers in London, describing the attack and torture of the Indian agent Thomas Nairn, writes, but next morning at the dawn, their terrible war whoop was heard, and a great multitude was seen, whose faces and several other parts of their bodies were painted with red and black streaks, resembling devils come out of hell. They threw themselves first upon the agents and Mr. Wright, seized their houses and effects, fired upon everybody without distinction, and put to death with torture in the most cruel manner in the world those who escaped the fire of their weapons. Wait a minute. Well, how do Yamasee have guns? The reason why I'm pointing out the Moorish history is because the Moorish in ancient, well, not even in ancient history, they learned to make guns by interacting with the Chinese. The Moors were the first people with guns. I am not saying that these guns amongst the Yamasee come from the Moors, but we are never taught that Indians in the Southeast running up on white people with guns. We see arrows and all kind of other stuff. But this is a South Carolina group of peer review people saying they ran up in there with a direct quote from somebody who was there at the time. So now let me stop this real quick because I got to go back to my points in antiquity. This is not about slavery. As a matter of fact, let me do this. I got to do this. Let's see if I can find it real quick, because this is getting on my nerves now with the slavery thing. Y'all getting on my nerves. Here we go. All right, I'll read this, and this is important. Yeah, there were slaves. Let's start dealing with numbers then. Let's start dealing with perception of what we are talking about. This is the Jarrell plantation, which is the largest plantation in South Carolina. But I want to read something from right here. John Fitzgerald built the first permanent structure on the site in 1847. Typical of the antebellum cotton plantations, John Jarrell ran the farm with his family and the forced labor of enslaved Africans. Now, we don't know if these people are all enslaved Africans. They have dark-skinned people there. I'm pretty sure there's no papers for the people who got to the plantation. If they are, somebody needs to prove them. But by 1860, this is the largest cotton plantation in Georgia. Jarrell was enslaving 39 people on a 660-acre farm. 39 on the largest cotton plantation in Georgia? Okay, so let me jump off the slavery thing because I might be able to come back to that in the Q&A or maybe some questions. But I want to go back to this antiquity argument. And I was on something dealing with maps. So let me go back there, because that's important. All right. I can get there. Let's see.
Hey, you need your time stop?
Yeah, stop my time real quick, just so I can pull up these maps. Sorry. All right. So let me share my material. All right.
Yeah, you at 1340.
All right. So let me go back to this. All right. So I was dealing with this, Zealand. Because when I was talking about an eighth continent, people were laughing at me. So let me just be clear. These are geologists saying there was an eighth continent inside of the Pacific. This is their paper. You can see it here. All right. You can see it here. And you can see Zealand here, a depiction of it by these geologists. Going back to the indigenous record from Javier Cabrera, this book right here. Thousands of years ago in South America, somebody made a map with an 8th continent in the Pacific Ocean. This is North America, this is South America, this is West Africa. How could they possibly know anything about tectonics, since tectonics was supposed to be developed in the 1960s or came to a conclusion? This is a dagger of a cosmic level. This particular continent is the continent that they described as sinking. So let me show you some progression so you can see what this will look like. All right. This is our current world right here. And this is directly from Javier Cabrera's book. This is the breakup of the map. All right. So you have, I got polls coming up blocking my screen, but I don't know. All right. This is how the map breaks up, and this is how it appears on the Ica stones: North America, South America, 8th continent, West Africa. Now notice on this one right here, this is from the book. This needs to be important. And this is from thousands of years ago. Notice Africa is broken up into 2 parts. West Africa is basically like an island, and then you have all of East and Central Africa here on these tectonic plates. Then you have Europe and Asia and Australia here. This is from an indigenous record, right? Let's go to the map that geologists create with Gondwana. Don't you see Africa right here with a fault line that breaks it, actually in 2 parts? But this particular depiction of Gondwana matches this map. How did it happen? How were people in South America able to describe tectonic plates thousands of years ago when today it's only something that's about 60 years old? So now I'm dealing with the people, and now I want to go to Mr. Albert Perry, because now we're about to break this conversation up into what it needs to be broken up into. So let me find Mr. Perry real quick. There we go. Pause. Can you pause it while I'm scrolling down to get to Perry? Am I able to do that?
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you. All right, let me get down to Perry.
You at 1047. 1047.
Okay, I got 1047. All right. So first of all, are y'all seeing my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, great. All right, so I'm ready. All right, so now this is a cross comparison of the S&Ps of the 3 people from Perry's family that were tested. He had a great-grandson, a great-great-grandson, and a great-great-grandson that were tested. I have their names and everything in this book. But here, when you're checking the sources, what you have here is John Perry, which I have his birth information in here and everything. These are his S&Ps. These 2 right here are the 2 younger relatives' S&Ps. And this is Cameroon, listen to S&Ps. Now, an S&P is a single nucleotide polymorphism. It is a gene code that can show diversity. As you can see, the Perry line has different S&Ps than the Cameroon find. So now you have Perry, who Jabari said was a slave. And I'll pull that video because that's a sa.neter video. We won't get in trouble for that. But this is Perry right here. Matter of fact, this is his whole family. First of all, this is his son, Clyde Perry. This is why we do genealogy amongst indigenous people. And he listed his father, Albert Perry, as being born where? In Florida. Now, Albert Perry was born in 1819. In Florida in 1819? Florida wasn't even the U.S. state until 1845. Who was in Florida in 1819? Oh, the Seminoles were in Florida and the Spanish. Okay, so let's keep going with Albert Perry. This is John Clyde Perry. All right, this is his baptismal record. We can track his parents. All right, over here. All right. Mabel Perry, Jimmy Lee London. All right. And then we can go to the census data. This is the 1880 census data for Albert Perry. He's listed right here as a laborer. All All right. This is Albert Perry in Columbia, South Carolina. Right here. He lived in Columbia, South Carolina as a cook. All right. Now, I traced Albert Perry for a reason. Albert Perry has the oldest genes found on Earth, and their S&P network, again, is different than the African. So now you need to understand as I go into this conversation what I'm about to go into, because I got it in the book and I'm gonna break it down to you very simply. S&Ps are variants on a chromosome. These haplogroups have been broken up into AOOA, AOOB, AOOC to signify the differences in the S&Ps. This is the oldest DNA on Earth. Now, let's keep going. I cannot verify this yet, and it's a shame because within a week, I will verify it. But I am going to put it out there that within a week, I'm going to find out whether this is true or not, whether this is the same Albert Perry who was born in Indian territory and who shows up later making claims for Indian lands. I'll leave it here for the screenshot so y'all can see it, so y'all can see the sources. I am not saying that this is 100% verified, but I'm saying that this find, if I could prove it within a week, in the later debate discussions will help us with this whole discussion. Now, let's go to this genetics talking and discussion real quick. Let's go here. Okay, so I can get you to understand this genetics discussion on another level. All right. S&P means single nucleotide polymorphism. Polymorphism means a change. That unique change in the gene code can, 1, make a unique protein exclusive to that ethnic group. An example of that is the MC1R gene that makes melanin for Aboriginals. That is a unique gene that when found in Europeans, it is an adverse mutation. And that adverse mutation in the MC1R gene gives the difference between selenium-based eumelanin and sulfur-based pheomelanin. So when these people try to tell you that people walk places and turn pale, listen, I don't even know if I have enough time to get to that part, but I'll try. All right. That's what the S&P is. All right. Some S&Ps can be non-coding and just a unique marker held by a people that does not transcribe to make a protein. All right. And some of us have individual S&Ps. Now, the reason why I'm saying this in regards to Albert Perry is because in the chain of events of genetic science, no one here can say Albert Perry is genetically African until you find all of the S&Ps in the African that match his genes. You cannot say it. You presume that he was a slave, and there's no record of it in any of the census data, and we can look it up, and it's all there. That's why I started to show you that. I would love for my opponent who said that Albert Perry was a slave to bring up the documents to prove so. Since he's bringing up documents,
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, that would be very, very important. So now let me go back. See, I want to make sure I'm on point. Can we pause for a second just for me to pull my my slides up?
Yeah, we got you at 441.
All right, 109 to 119. Hold on.
Yeah, I remember up next after Jabari and Ali's final rebuttal, we got the cross-examination.
All right, hold on one second.
I know that's everybody's favorite round.
All right, so let me go. Oh, no. That's not it. Hold on. Shit, where is the...
Reminder, we got 4:41 on the clock.
All right.
Yeah, you just let me know when you're ready, Ali.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get there. All right. Okay, yeah, this is where I want to go. Okay. All right. So now, you ready? 4? All right, so these same stones, the Ica stones that show the 8th continent, also show humans interacting with what we consider to be animals that were here before we got here. And so now I want to bust the evolutionists up because, all right, they have something called ocean dispersal, right? Ocean dispersal is a type of biological dispersal that occurs when terrestrial organisms transfer from one landmass to another by way of a sea crossing. What these evolutionists propose is that dinosaurs, monkeys, and other mammals, birds, etc., cross oceans and seas somehow as an explanation for why they show up on continents they were not supposed to be on. This violates the concept developed by the co-founder of evolutionary theory. Most of us know Charles Darwin. Many do not know Alfred Wallace. He independently conceived the theory of evolution through natural selection. In his 1858 paper on the subject was published that year alongside extracts from Charles Darwin, earlier writings on the topic. It spurred Darwin to set aside the Big Species book he was drafting and quickly write an abstract of it, which was published in 1859 on the origin of species. Wallace did extensive field work starting on the Amazon River basin. He then did field work in the Malay Archipelago, where he identified the faunal divide, now termed the Wallace Line, which separates the Indonesian archipelago into 2 distinct parts, a western portion in which the animals are largely of Asian origin, and the eastern portion where the fauna reflect Australia. He was considered a 19th century leading expert in the geographical distribution of animal species and is sometimes called the father of biogeography, or more specifically of zoogeography. The emphasis I'm making here is that the proposed Wallace Line. The Wallace Line was a line that separated animals of different types, which these were only miles away from each other on various Pacific islands, but they were separated. Wallace proposed at some earlier point that the islands were separated and the animals developed independently and never had integration due to geologic divisions. It would not be till later, the discovery of tectonic plates, that Wallace's theory was confirmed. Animals separated by oceans and seas that developed as plates spread had no way of being on other continents. Once scientists started finding that some animals were on continents that were separated by oceans that these animals were supposed to go, then they made up the ocean dispersal. So they found a dinosaur in an area that is now Europe, that's now Morocco.
2 minutes.
How much?
2 minutes.
Great. That allegedly swam across the ocean. Then they found, this is the paper, then they found monkeys that allegedly floated on vegetation across oceans. What I'm telling you is none of these, they came up with a dumb concept. None of these animals, dinosaurs, were floating across oceans. What happened was, man was here at this time. He described tectonic plates, and guess where he was? He just happened to be in America when he was describing these things. And so my point to Jabari is the oldest genes are here. Animals wasn't crossing oceans. Humans were taking them, and humans are depicted as being here in a document that describes tectonic plates in America before tectonic plates ever existed. And not only that, these people who did it shared the same calendar system with the Mayans. Where's the Paris Codex? It's here. If I don't get to it, I'll get to it in my rebuttal just to show it.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I don't think. Oh, here it is. All right, so this is the Ica stones showing what we call the Manzil calendar, 13 by 28. And this is the Paris Codex from that same book, the Mayan Codex. So this calendar was shared between Mexico and South America. All right. And I'll come back to that just to make a point to talk about the antiquity. But these were Black people, and their position extended all the way to the southeast United States. And so I think that Jabari is having a problem because he's material.
Tom, all right. So that was Ali's last 20-minute round. Jabari, it is time for your last rebuttal before you get into your 20-minute round. Now, I know y'all like to say that that the Abos be running away from DNA and all that. He ain't run away from that, Jabari.
Yeah, he did.
Domo.
Domo.
You gotta show that.
You're gonna see it. You're gonna
show that.
Let me just say before I begin, Albert Perry is not even in my rebuttal. I'm gonna talk about Albert Perry in my 20-minute round.
Okay. All right.
Because I want you to know they gotta stop talking about this. Let's do the rebuttal. Let's go.
Let's get into it.
And you know what? Let me say I'm angry. I'm angry with our brother Ali. Because he gave me so much to refute that it don't fit in 5 minutes. Everything he said is easily refutable. Let's start really quickly, very quickly. I'm going to try to do this so that you're able to get it. First, he said, no, let's not go there first. Wait, are you seeing my?
Yeah, I paused you. I paused you.
Calafia?
Yeah.
Okay, good. First, I want to say he tried to say that maybe California was connected to the Muslim people, to Islamic people, to the Moors. It bears the name of Calafia. You need to know that California does bear the name of Calafia, but it came from the adventures of Esplandin, a Spanish author in the late 15th century, wrote a novel about Black women who were in control of the island. He thought California was an island, by the way. It's a novel. It's not a historical book. That's where California comes from, a novel. Why did he do that? Let's continue. Let's also talk about his image, right? He said that this dude right here was a slave trader. How dare you misrepresent the name and the legacy of an African ancestor? You know I'm going to look at your sources. Did you look at your sources? Stop it. This brother is named Kwasi. He's a Suriname slave who discovered Kwasia. We also have Leonard Parkinson. There's a lot about him. He's a leader of Maroons. These all show Maroons here. He is not an enslaver. You can buy this from Alamy, who tells you exactly what they're selling. Why did he say that? Did he look? Did he track down the picture? No, he did not. Yes, they are all Africans, but this dude is a leader of the Maroons. He's an enslaved African, former enslaved African rebellion leader, and you call him a slaver. May the ancestors strike you down for saying that kind of stuff. What's wrong with you? Then he also keeps talking about the Moors. How does he keep saying the Moors are here? The Moors are not. He said we came here from nowhere else. He's calling people Moors. And finally, I got to end with this. He continually describes the Inca stones. I don't even have time to go through this all, but I want you to know, here's the source here. Go to Atlas Obscura, good source, by the way, on the Inca stones. And I want you to know very quickly, but then following a BBC special critical of the stones in 1973, Basilo Ushuya admitted to carving the stones himself. This is a pseudo describing another pseudo and trying to sell it to you, African family. Y'all need to hold Ali accountable for his poor sources, his lack of understanding the narrative, and he don't look at anything. He doesn't track anything down.
Tom. All right.
He got me heated.
20 minutes. You got 20 minutes to get it out. You got 20 minutes to get it out. Last one. Finish strong, Jabari. Let's get it.
I don't even like to use the word pseudo, and that's the only word I can come up with here.
You want to start on this screen, or you want to? Yeah.
I'm gonna put up a slide.
All right, let's get it. Whenever you're ready.
I gotta look at your sources. Give me a sec here. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna start here, and then I'm gonna go. Listen. I'm gonna deal with Albert Perry. And for those of you who are watching, you could start me now.
All right, we started.
Are watching. If you are in the Abo community and you continue to use Albert Perry, you do so at your peril. For all of you who keep hearing the Abos mention Albert Perry, you need to clip this piece because it is time for us to stop this foolishness. Ali didn't find Albert Perry himself. It came from a scholarly article. Did he read the article? No. He says, I said he was enslaved. Did I say he was enslaved? I don't know Albert Perry. I read the articles. Ali didn't read the articles. He didn't read them. This is embarrassing. Let's do it. Let's do it. First, I want you to know, I'm not going to Albert Perry yet. That's going to be the final dagger. I want you to look here. First of all, you should know more enslavement ships. We found them. Remember, I'm arguing that we are Africans who were enslaved. That's how we got here. He's arguing all kinds of stuff. He's arguing that we're Moors. He's arguing that we in the Muslim tradition. He's arguing Africans didn't come here before he says we didn't come here. I mean, he's all over the place. He's not arguing anymore. He's just throwing stuff up on the wall and hope that the rest of the Abos in the room say, peace, you got it, Ali. Come on now. This is not scholarship at all. If you scratch the surface on any of his sources, they fall apart. Worse than Swiss cheese on moldy bread. This is crazy. So look at this. I want you to know that you could go and look at Africa Town. I want you to go to Netflix and look at the documentary called Descendant. It describes those Africans who were on the last enslavement ship in the United States. When the ship ran aground, the owner kicked the Africans off, the enslaver, and he tried to burn and destroy the ship. That's what he tried to do. The ship has been discovered. In fact, all of those Africans who are on that ship are now in a community called Africa Town. I told you before, I'm a Mets fan. I have known about Africa Town since I was a child. Why? Because one of the brothers that played on the Mets in their first World Series team, Cleon Jones, was from Africa Town, and he constantly talked about Africa Town. He'd be on the news and he'd just be saying, you know, I'm from Africa Town. He constantly talked about it. He just died. I want you to know that Africans knew who they were, and they continually told us. The people that lived there tell you who they were related to and who was on the ship. This article is in The Guardian describing that Africa Town, the site of the last slave ship, is suing over the pollution because, you know, the government in Florida is still trying to harm them. This was from Friday, January 26, 2018. Here's the source. This is it, right? We know where we came from. How about Richard Allen, who creates the African Methodist Episcopal Church? And before that, the Free African Society. Why does he keep saying that they're Africans in 1787 and 1794? He knows who they are. The AMEC. They know who they are. From the beginning of time, we have Africans who are in the United States coming here describing their origins. Yet he wants you to look at some drawings from some Europeans of brown people and say, that's us. He's ignoring all of the ancestors who left a voluminous record of who they are. He wants you to spit on the name of Richard Allen. How dare you? How dare you? Your ancestors are displeased with you. How about El Yanga in Mexico? Do you know El Yanga in Mexico? He's sometimes called Gaspar Yanga, and he led a revolt near what is now Veracruz in 1631 and creates a society, an independent society of Africans. Look at the plaque on the statue of him in Mexico, Negro Africano, precursor de la libertad. de los negros esclavos. He is the Black African precursor of liberty for enslaved Black people. That's what they say. This is in Mexico. Y'all should go to Mexico and take a look at it. Look at the statue of the brother, El Yanga. Most people don't know Gaspar Yanga. Sometimes you will hear the Abos, including Ali, try to make it sound like Europeans confused us. They're going to mention Franz Boas. They're going to mention Melville Herskovitz. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Look at when they lived. Franz Boas was born in 1858. He comes into prominence in the early 20th century. We have records, replete records of Africans long before him telling us who they were. They should stop mentioning these people. It's ridiculous. And by the way, Franz Boas dropped dime on the other anthropologists who were working for the FBI. Ali has continued to misrepresent what Franz Boas did. Look at the scholarly paper on his life. I'm not going to even show it to you here. I have it. If you want it, I'll send it to you. How about David Walker's appeal from 1828? By the way, this particular edition has a foreword by my Jegna at Cornell, the founder of the Africana Studies and Research Center, James Turner, who passed last year. One of the most important men in my life. This is what we see from David Walker, an African man who was fighting against the enslavement of Africans. He says in Article 2, there are some of the productions of ignorance which he will see practice among my dear brethren, who are held in unjust slavery and wretchedness by avaricious and unmerciful tyrants, to whom and their hellish deeds I would suffer my life to be taken before I would submit. He's saying he would rather die than be an enslaved African. And when my curious observer comes to take notice of these who are said to be free, which assertion I deny, and who are making some frivolous pretensions to common sense, he will see that branch of ignorance among the slaves, assuming a more cunning and deceitful course of procedure. He may see some of my brethren in league with tyrants. Now he's going after the Africans who betrayed us. That's what he's talking about here. Selling their own brethren into hell upon earth. Not dissimilar to exhibitions in Africa, but in a more secret, servile, and abject manner. He's talking about what happened on the continent of Africa, 1829. These are Africans describing what they did and who they were. How about Drusilla Dungy Houston? We don't talk about her enough. This is a sister that writes about the Ethiopians of the ancient Kushite Empire in 1901, an early Black woman, African-American woman who writes about our ancient societies. And she is describing how the Ethiopians are amazing people and that they are our people. Listen to what she says on page 7. In most modern books, there seems to be preconcerted understanding to calumniate and discuss the world with the abominable pictures of the ruined Ethiopian, ruined by the African slave trade of 400 years. There seems to be a worldwide conspiracy in literature that conceals the facts that this book holds. Because of his suppression of truth, world crimes have been easily made possible against the Ethiopian. She's arguing that civilization was given to the world by the Ethiopian, who has now been ruined by the African enslavement trade. She's telling us who we are. How about Edward Wilmot Blyden, who actually talks about Liberia and tries to make sure that Liberia is a place that actually will work. He says on page 1 of his book, the prospect of Africa's future civilization and of her ranking among the advanced countries of the world, thus vindicating the oneness of the origin from the first Adam and of interest in the second Adam, may stimulate all her children to the boldest efforts. He is saying Africa must understand what we did so we can stimulate our future. And he writes another book called West Africa Before Europe. This is an African-American. Edward Wilmot Blyden. How many of you have read him? How about Phyllis Wheatley? Phyllis Wheatley writes a book before the United States is United States in 1773. And she talks about Terence Affer. And she's talking about how he is one of Africa's sable race. Why is she talking about him? She's trying to say, I know that we're enslaved now, but look at what we've done. She says, the happier Terence, all the choir inspired. His soul replenished, his bosom fired. But say ye muses, why this partial grace to one of Afrique's sable race, from age to age, transmitting thus his name with the first glory in the rolls of fame. She's talking about those
10 minutes
who did amazing things. And she, as an enslaved woman, is trying to motivate Africans to be the people that we must be. Let's get into Albert Perry. And I want Ali Muhammad to take Albert Perry, the African, out of his mouth. First, let's start with this article in The Conversation, a scholarly journal. In fact, look at what it says. It calls itself, its moniker is Academic Rigor, Journalistic Flair. And he writes here, Albert and Adam rewrite the story of human origins. He says, the DNA of Albert Perry may change the story of human origins. Perry was an African-American born into slavery in South Carolina. An analysis of the DNA of his descendants produced results that came quite a surprise and raised questions for geneticists around the world. It turns out Perry carried a very different Y chromosome, never seen before. Every male has a Y chromosome, which is a piece of DNA inherited, blah, 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 blah. They're talking about who Albert Perry is. By the way, they're not saying he has the oldest DNA quite clearly. I want you to understand what they're saying is they thought the line of Albert Perry had died out. Because you know that when they talk about the atom, and I don't like that term because it's biblical, and we should be talking about science. But when they talk about the African atom, they thought that they could find the African atom around 200,000 BCE. Instead, they now realize that his line, the line of an older atom, did not die out, and there were a few left. That is the line that Albert is part of. So now they're saying there's a revised atom at about 340,000 BCE. And they're saying that it's similar to the DNA found in Cameroon around the Mbo. But you might say, well, why is it not exact? Why is it not exact? Did Ali Muhammad read the scholarly article? He didn't find Albert Perry himself. He would have had to read the article to tell you about Albert Perry. Did he do that? The answer must be no. That's the kind of the lack of research, shoddy work that we're seeing. He might as well call Albert Perry an Inca stone. You have to hold him accountable, family. I'm going to show you the scholarly article because, you know, the way that I do work, you need to understand that the sources vindicate me. The sources are how I'm able to tell you the story. He's the one that's misreading them and not reading them at all. Oh, and you know what else? I should even say this really quickly. Before I go to Albert Perry, let me slap him up a little bit more. He tried to say that the Yamasee Indians had people who were Negro. Of course they did. Why? Because the Yamasee Native Americans were known to actually take in formerly enslaved Africans. Read this article, May 15, 2017. UNF professor tries to shed light on Northeastern Indian tribe. The Yamasee Indians were hard to pin down. That was a necessary survival strategy for Southeast Native people who, as the 1600s bled in 1700s, found themselves caught between rival Indian groups and Europeans trying to capture them from slaves. The land-hungry American colonists and the ruling powers of the British in South Carolina and the Spanish in St. Augustine. It worked this way, says Denise Bolsey, University of North Florida history professor, who's writing a book on the Yamasee. They made themselves valuable to the British when convenient, to the Spanish when needed, they took in new members, new life, including other Indians and many escaped African slaves. And he wants you to think that simply because there were quote unquote Negroes found amongst them, you should think that the Yamasee Native American people that must prove that we were always here. We know who the Yamasee are. There's a reason why York mentioned them. Remember he said he was a part of the Yamasee nation? There's a reason why. They have a history. Most of y'all in the audience know it already. Y'all can't let him get away with sloppy stuff like that.
5 minutes.
Everything that he has said has been refuted today. There's not a word that fell out of his mouth. Here's the article, the scholarly article that describes Albert Perry. This is the scholarly article written by Fernando Mendez, Thomas Cron, and Bonnie Schrack. An African-American, by the way, they're telling you he's African-American. An African-American paternal lineage adds an extremely ancient root to the human Y chromosome phylogenetic tree. Read the article. You can't just make it up on your own. They're the ones that found him and did the DNA studies. They're the ones that did it. Why didn't you read the article? Why? Because you're sloppy. Why? Because you're disrespecting our ancestors. Why? Because you came to get spanked by Jabari today. Spanking completed. I want you to just scroll down because he always makes a large deal about the fact that when they look at his DNA, it's not exactly the same as those people in Africa. They tell you why they think it is. Listen to the scholarly article on Albert Perry, where the information was brought to light by the scholars who did the work, not by some dude that's sitting in his room confused. Let's read it. The large sample size of African Americans was critical for the discovery of the AOO lineage, given its very low frequency estimate in sub-Saharan Africa. However, even the large consumer-based African American data set examined here is a highly biased representation of sub-Saharan Africans because it captures only the genetic diversity inherited from ancestors living at a particular time and place, i.e., essentially the West African coastal source area of the what? Can you read? I don't question whether you can read, but I need to question whether you did read. Essentially the West African source of the Atlantic slave trade, which took place during the 15th and 19th centuries. It is likely that a much richer understanding of the Y chromosome phylogeny, as well as of genetic variation in general, would be achieved if more dense and even sampling were to be conducted across sub-Saharan Africa, especially given its high level of genetic diversity. They are saying to you, the reason why they don't have an exact match is because they ain't doing as much work in sub-Saharan Africa. That's what they told you. They explained it. The scholars that brought you Albert Perry. But these abos don't read.
2 minutes.
Hiring. You have to read all their sources and refute them. I read this in front of what's the sister's name? Shanjor. And she said, you didn't read the article. I said, I speed read. I was taught to speed read. I read the article in less than 2 minutes. Yet it's been months and they won't read the article. The article is called An African American Paternal Lineage. That's the first 5 words. And they're trying to tell you that he's a native person, that the oldest DNA is in the Americas. That's not what the article says. Read the article. I'm going to impeach you on your sources every single time. And I thought that Ali was going to do better than this. Did you just want me to impeach you that easily? Why did you even bring up Albert Perry? Didn't you see me sacrifice Shanjor on the Temple of the Warriors? Why'd you bring it up? Every single thing you said today has been refuted. And you have not argued that we're not from Africa. Isn't that what you said? Isn't that what you were arguing? We're not from Africa.
So the history will be easy. We are the first people on this land, and we did not get here by way of Africa.
Boom! That's what he says. And then he says lots of stuff that's confusing. Ali, you're done. You need to go back to the lab, take a history course, take my history course. But I'm telling you, you ain't ready. And I thought you would do better. Very articulate, very intelligent, but doesn't read sources. Why? If you were in my class, you would fail. I would write, what a shame on the top of your page.
That's Tom.
I'm done.
All right, that was Jabari's final 20-minute round. We got the last round coming from Chief Ali. I know you got a lot to say. We can't hear you.
What round is this we on right now?
You get a rebuttal.
The rounds
Once
are done.
Wait. I get a rebuttal and another round?
No, you just get a
rounds
rebuttal.
are over. Right. Okay, I just want to make sure. I thought you said another round. I just get a rebuttal.
Yeah, just a rebuttal. Yeah.
And then we go into Q&A.
And then you're going to
Between me and Jabari.
So this your last 3 minutes.
Okay, got you. So let me pull up my sources real quick and then we can jump on this. Oh boy, what was that? Okay. I'm going to pull up what he just showed to show what rhetoric looks like. All right, hold on. Let me pull this up. What he just showed.
And after this, we got the cross-examination. We got the questions, 3 questions apiece. Each debater get a minute to answer those questions again, uninterrupted.
And do we have anything? Are we taking questions from the audience at all? Or just that's it. That's just it.
Nah, just y'all two. Just y'all two.
All right.
You know, you got to say that for the after show.
Oh, okay, yeah. So y'all having an after show. All right.
Oh, of course. Got to. Y'all definitely make sure y'all jump over to sa.neter channel after the debate to go ahead and engage in that.
Let me pull this source up. I just emailed myself because I screenshotted it. I didn't. Where we at? Refresh this real quick. There we go. All right, let me pull this up real quick and open this up. Oh boy, what the rhetoric.
Yo, then after the cross-examination, then the 5-minute closing. 5-minute closing.
All right, 3-minute rebuttal. Let's get this right. Yeah, shit screen.
Forever, brother. What's going on?
What happened? I want to make sure. That's all right, Jabari. You ain't supposed to be talking. All right, I got y'all seeing the screen, right? This is what he just read. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me when you're ready. You ready?
Whenever you are.
All right. Okay, let's go back to Albert Perry. And let's go back to rhetoric. And let's go back to being able to read. The large sample size of African Americans was critical for the discovery of the 800 lineage, given its what? Very low frequency estimate in sub-Saharan Africa. It's not our fault that people are not testing. What is the truth is that Albert Perry's 800 lineage is the oldest based on the S&P network. That is fact. The second thing is it's never been found in Africa. Now, if Jabari wants to apologize because geneticists are lazy, that's fine. An article heading cannot make you African. What's going to make you African is if you find them damn genes in Africa. And guess what, Jabari? They've not been found. They have not been found. That means, as it stands right here, Two things need to happen. Albert Perry was not born in South Carolina. I showed you from certified state documents. He was born in Florida and he eventually moved to South Carolina. So get your facts straight. Even the genetic site don't even have their facts straight on where he was born. That's how lazy they are. And so what I'm saying to you, Jabari, is Albert Perry's genes as it stands right now are not African. Albert Perry was not a slave. You have to pull all them ship documents. As a matter of fact, I'm about to pull some documents live right now. Since y'all want to talk about slavery, the White Lion was the first slave ship that brought Africans allegedly from a Portuguese ship
1 minute
to America. So let me do this. Let me go back to my book. Matter of fact, let me go back to the book because I can find it in the book easy. Hold on. Can we get a pause just so I can get to my other source real quick on that 1 minute? Can we get a pause? Is that legal?
Yeah, we got you.
All right, so let me get back to my source on the here we go. And you could actually do this live too if you're on the transatlantic slave trade voyages website. But I have screenshots in the book, so I'll go from my book, but you'll see the heading is the same and everything. All right, so let me go to share. You're talking about ships. You talking about ships, and I'm gonna hit the ecostones if I could catch it because I already told y'all. Wait, let me get back to my source. All right. Can y'all see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, so I'm about to start right now. Okay, so on the ecostones, I told you some of them were real and some of them were fake. And that same person admitted to faking them, some of them. But let's jump off of that. Let's go here because these slave voyages are records from 1501 to 1866. So I said, you know what? Let me go up here and let me look up White Lion, which is the first slave ship, which was in 1607. They keep records from 1501. So it should be on here, right? When you type in White Lion, right? For both of these, you get no data available in the table. I went to the ship that the White Lion, the Sao João Batista. You go there, y'all can go there in the chat right now and type in these slave ships, and there's no data available.
Tom.
That's what I'm saying. Go ahead. It's not there.
Tom. There we go. All right, main rounds is over. They got it in. They did their thing. Now it's time for the cross-examination. All right, like we identified earlier, each debater gets 3 questions. 3 questions. Just 3. If you have a follow-up question for 1 question, you better save it because you only get 3 questions. Gotcha. The debater answering the question gets 60 minutes uninterrupted.
60 seconds?
60 minutes. My fault. 60 seconds, right. Yeah, there you go. On top of it, 60 seconds uninterrupted. We start with, since Chief Ali started, the rounds we'll start with.
I want to just a point of order again. Say that one more time. How long is the question? How long is the answer?
No, there's no time limit on asking the question. We just, we just assume that you just asked the question.
Right.
But the response, they get 60 seconds uninterrupted. Okay. 60 seconds uninterrupted. All right.
Quick question, brother.
Yes,
you talked about the questions that we actually have in the question and answer. It's need a little more clarity. There's questions for the actual debaters in there. Did you want to address that in that? Would they want to do that? And I know you also talked about on the after show some things. So we just want to clear it up because people did ask. There were some things they had for both of the debaters. I'm not sure how y'all want to do that.
Hold on.
So there was, Juju did let me asking questions in the Zoom.
Yeah.
So if Sa is cool with it, we can have the debaters answer those questions after they ask their questions to each other. And then we get into the closing. If Sa is cool with that.
What's happening is that these two supposed to be cross-examining each other with questions. And then they get 5 minutes of closing. and then we head
Right.
on over to the after hour spot, and they can ask questions there. We always did it like that, because that
Right.
just prolong it on here. So they get to come in and ask their questions. Because Jabari, he got to be out of here tomorrow, so we don't want to keep him waiting either. So that way,
Cool.
it'd be good. So right now
Yeah.
we at the part where these two ask each other questions.
Asking each other questions. Yes, sir. All right. So yeah, we're just gonna keep the questions between the debaters. We're gonna start with Jabari. You got 3 questions. Ali, you got a minute to answer.
Ask one first, right? I'm not going to ask them 3 altogether, right?
Well,
Right.
Right.
You asked the first question. Yeah,
Okay.
you asked the first question.
And then I'm
Yes,
gonna
sir.
go, and we'll go like
Okay.
that.
There we
The
go.
first question I have is, we have clearly seen you sit in that very room that you're sitting in and say that we did not come from Africa. Yet you've described Moors, you described what you consider early voyages. Can you explain why you said we didn't come from Africa and then say that we did come from Africa? Which is it?
Okay, so state your question from start to finish, because you made a statement too, and you're mixing it all together. So what I want you to do is start with the first word of the question and end with the last word of the question, because you added in statements. Can you do that again, please, sir?
That you're unclear about what the question is?
I want you to state the question alone without statements, so I can answer what
you don't get to decide how I ask the question. I just asked how long I can.
Hold on.
So now we need rules, because he made statements.
Hold on. Let's do it like this. Let's do it like this. Because he can't ask the question. You know what I'm saying? How he wants to ask the question. Is there any confusion about the question?
It is because what I want is the question. Your question is stated. Can you state it?
We have heard you say that we did not come from Africa. We are the original people to this place. Yet during this presentation, you have tried to say that Africans came here earlier. You called us Moors. You've shown what you argue are Islamic drawings. How can you say that we are not from Africa and then say we are from Africa? Clear this up for the people.
All right, yeah, I will. Really, really, really good. All right, and I'll use this one as the best tool. All right, so let me get to sharing my screen. And I got 60 seconds, right?
Yes, sir. Your screen is up.
All right. So the reason I said we are from here and not from Africa, because in the very geographic regions that I live in now, all the way down to Mexico and other parts, we have a group of Negroes who live in the same places that we live right now, whose language, like Powhatan, shows connection to Mayans and calendars and things that are clearly not African and have time periods that have no connection to Africa. However, it was stated Mansa Musa, Abu Bakari never made it here. I wanted to show that we were going to each other's continent. That's why I showed cocaine in Africa. That's why I showed Moors coming here. They came here to a people that already had a lineage. And you made
30 seconds.
You made the best explanation. If you are from Sweden and you crash your jet in Africa, that don't make all the people in Africa. So some Africans coming here doesn't change the whole Negro population that I've shown records from start to finish. These people were already here. What we haven't covered is the evolutionary points, but that's okay. But they were here, and I've proven they were here. I've proven their direct connection to us linguistically, location, and geography. So that's my answer.
There we go. First question asked by Jabari. Appreciate that. Chief Ali, it's on you.
All right. All right, so my first question goes back to Albert Perry. And what we have done is we showed the actual S&Ps of the 3 people. We showed them of the 3 people. And those S&Ps are not in Africa. So what I want Jabari to, but he keeps saying that Albert Perry is African. So what I want Jabari to do is prove Albert Perry lineage is from Africa by showing us the S&Ps that connect him to Africa, because that is what is used. Can you pull up from any study anywhere that prove that Albert Perry's American genes, because he was been here, come from Africa? Please pull it up and show us the S&Ps that match any African on the continent.
I want to be very clear that the way that we all know about Albert Perry is because there's a scholarly journal, an article that was written about Albert Perry, and it describes all of their study. I think that I have proven today that we can't trust any of your sources. We can't trust anything you say. We got to read everything you say. But I'm going to tell you, the people that brought us Albert Perry tell us that the closest thing we see to his DNA is among the Imbo people in Cameroon. There is not an exact match, but they have explained why we shouldn't expect to see an exact match, because there is less density. I don't know why you're punching yourself. This is shadow boxing. You're punching yourself. There is less I read it to you. There's less density in the analysis of DNA in Cameroon. And they said we shouldn't be surprised we haven't found an exact match. And so that is what the scholars did. That's what the people who are geneticists did.
Tom. There we go. Appreciate that. Jabari, second question for you.
Let's see. I'd like to ask you a little bit about there's so much I need to ask you, but let's start here. Let's start here. I want to know why we're in a situation where you are describing the Yamasee and having quote unquote Negroes amongst them. Had you done the study on the composition of the Yamasee people? And if you have, where did you search? Where did you find it?
Okay, composition of Yamasee.
You're writing it down?
No, I'm let me go through my process, bro. It's all right. You're gonna be good. You're gonna be good, bro. You're gonna be good, bro.
More than good. I'm nice today.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready, Ali.
Okay, let me pull up my source.
And then anybody, if y'all asked any questions in the chat through the question and answer portion, remember, sa.neter will be having an after party where y'all will get the opportunity to ask any questions that y'all asked in the Zoom. So if you want to talk to the folks debating, got to pull up on the panel. With your cameras on too. Y'all know how that go. With your cameras on. Yeah.
All right, so let me share my screen. Go back to share my screen to answer this question about the composition of the Yamasee. Okay. You don't see that? I got 1 minute, right?
Yeah, we have 1 minute. We can see your screen.
Okay, so this is coming from the book that I just wrote on the subject, but here we go. From the pre-invasion period of the Europeans to the colonial period of the 1600s, 1700s, it was a known fact that the Southern Indians were actually Negroes. So now, this is the source, hearings before the Joint Commission of the Congress of the United States, 63rd Congress, so this is coming from the United States Congress, to investigate Indian affairs, and that is the date that they did it. So now they call the Yamasees Negroes, but I need to, I keep forgetting how to zoom in on this shit. All right, but here it is right here. He is the highest authority and says that the Yamasee Indians were Negroes, what were known afterwards, and the fiercest of the Indian tribes of the South. So, dear Jabari, it is your Congress of the United States with an investigation into Indian affairs who came to the conclusion that Yamasees were Negroes. And if they did, if they did enslave other Negroes, that's Negroes enslaving Negroes. That's an emotional point. The point is, they're Negroes, and they were in Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida.
Ali. All right. All right. The energy.
Question,
it's the energy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay.
Jabari, last question for the evening.
No. I didn't get my second question.
He asked the question now.
Yeah, because Jabari got 2, and I'm about to do my second one.
Yes.
Yeah, you asked the question. There you go, Ali.
Right, my asking.
He's saying your last question. Well, it's not your last, but
No, because I have one more after this.
yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Let me go to get my data so I can ask this question. Right. So this young man understands everything that I'm about to heap on him right now. Woo-wee, bro. This has been easier than I thought.
Ooh, you got medical marijuana over there.
Oh no. All right. So let me pull up my study. All right. All right. So earlier in this presentation, can you hear me?
Yes.
Got some back echo noise. Okay. All right. So, all right. Earlier in this debate, I pulled up a source titled "The First Identification of Drugs in Egyptian Mummies." All right. It was published by the doctor who did the study, Bala Banofa. And it was a cross comparison between Sudanese, Egyptian, Peruvian mummies to show the cocaine ratios in all of them in the study. My question to you, Jabari, is how did Egyptians get American cocaine that only comes from the coca leaf in their bodies?
I think we should acknowledge that I don't know how they got it. I don't know how they got it in their bodies, if it is in fact there. But I think that we have to also acknowledge that I also don't know whether you have a ham sandwich in your refrigerator. In other words, your question is a non sequitur. It has nothing to do with the debate that we're on. And I'm willing to stipulate they did have cocaine. What would that mean? I mean, it doesn't mean that we are Native Americans and not Africans. That's what this topic is. Do you not know what the topic was? Did no one send you the flyer? So it's a non sequitur. The reality is that it is possible that there were earlier journeys amongst people in other parts of the world, but those journeys, you have not substantiated how those journeys express how we actually are not Africans. Then you say we are Africans, then you say we're not Africans. Then you say some of us are Africans, some of us aren't Africans. Then, brother, you say we're Moors, then you say, listen, you are a tangled mess right here. And I'm done.
But not exactly, because you got one more question.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. Okay, here's my question. My question is about the Ica stones, right? I think that it has been widely reported that they are forgeries. And I'm not exactly sure. I want to know when you wrote it in. That's a really old book. I want to know when you wrote it in your book. And were you aware that they were forgeries before you used them so liberally in your argument?
All right. Go ahead.
It'd be taking forever.
Yeah, I got to be thorough, brother. You said you want me to do it this.
That's what you consider thorough? Oh.
After this, we got the 5-minute.
I got one more question after this. Remember, I still got one more question.
Yeah, I'm saying after the cross-examination, we got a 5-minute closing from each debater. and then we taking it to the after party.
Okay.
Whenever you ready, Ali.
All right. Screen. All right.
Hey, we see your screen.
See it?
Yep, we see your screen.
Let me make sure I can get to the points. Yeah, I can. Okay.
Yeah, we ready whenever you
All
are.
right. Yeah, I'm ready. Ready? All right, let's go.
Let's get it.
All right, so this is my signed copy of the Ecostones. I got this book 12 years ago. I showed you the book. It's all beat up for a reason. I do admit that there were people who started to make fake, they got something coming up on my screen or something like that. Okay. There are people who did forge Ecostones after the initial findings by Javier Cabrera. They were trying to sell them to tourists. And that's that gentleman. But there are Ecostones that are real. And so this is why I showed you the 8th continent being found, Zealand, something that people used to call me a pseudo before these reports came out. All right. And then we showed you that. And then we showed you from the Ecostone plate tectonics. These are ancient, and these are the ones that were not forged. Here you have the 8th continent in the very place that it is shown in the Pacific Ocean. North America, South America, West Africa, which at that time was broken from Central Africa. And then you have this continent that is placed.
Time.
All right. So I get one more question, right? My last question. Ooh,
yes, sir. Last question for the cross-examination round.
I have to show him something for the question, and then if he needs to do a screen share, I can shut mine down and let him do a screen share if he has to answer this question with a screen share. All right, so let me get to it.
All right, we don't see nothing yet.
Hold on, let me share.
I'll let you know. All right. Boom, screen shared.
All right, so Jabari, this is a primary source, Codex Tellerrenino Renensis. And in this depiction, these leaders are described as Los Negros en la Ciudad, Mexico, the Negroes in the city of Mexico. They're here and they are hanging what would be probably somebody from Africa who was pushing the Spanish religion. My question to you is, since these were Negroes with kinky hair sitting around here in brown skin, do you have any proof available to you that these people were from Africa?
That's your question?
Yes, that's my question.
You're asking me to describe your source?
No, I'm asking you do you have any proof from this source that documents Negroes, hanging an African Negro, that these Negroes were from Africa?
I
live in Mexico City.
I have no proof that they are in fact, quote unquote, Negroes.
Oh,
I have no proof that they are Negroes. Listen, I can't trust.
There.
I can't trust.
Hold on, Ali.
Oh, my bad.
I can't trust any of your sources. I can't trust any of the things that you've said. And I want to be really clear that as soon as you begin to examine some of what you've described, everything falls apart. You're saying they're Negroes. I mean, based on what? Based on what? And
30 seconds.
I want to say once again, we're back to you looking at images and saying because they're dark, they're Negroes. Because they're dark, they're us. I'm not exactly sure how you are here. You're really here? Come on. This is really, really poor. And I want to also be clear that When we look at the new, when we look at the New World, we see Africans in the New World earlier than this period. In enslavement.
All right, there we go. There we go. We got the rounds out the way, cross-X out the way. Now it's time to close this thing out. We're gonna start with Ali. 5-minute closing to cap this thing on off. And again, after this, we heading straight to the after party. So so we can get all these questions from all these people who was tapped in. So whenever you're ready, Ali, you got 5 minutes and we're closing this out.
Okay. All right. Give me a second to get to my sources.
Make sure you click the link to the sa.neter Studios when I go live, y'all. Y'all too, especially. Y'all ain't got.
You gonna send it to our emails again like you did this one?
Inside the chat. Y'all don't have to stay long because I know Jabari got a roll. So
so we want to stay in here now?
No.
No, that's afterwards.
On my YouTube channel.
Well, how are we gonna get the link? You gonna email it to us? We gotta just come on your page and try to get it from the chat. From the chat? Okay, from the chat. Okay, from the chat. All right. Okay, so let me do my summary. I gotta pull up one image to do my summary though, because this will sum up everything that I'm talking about.
And 5 minutes to close this one out.
Okay, give me 1 second.
You see, yeah, Ali definitely made sure to prepare. He trying to be thorough. I get it.
With, as thorough as possible. All right. So, all right. Let me get this right. I got to get the page down and then we good. This is page 199.
And let's close this one out strong.
199. 1. And then hold on 1 second. Get this last page down so I can have this sorry, taking so long, y'all. I'm just gotta pull up one more thing.
Y'all been getting it in. We don't want that fatigue to set in.
Oh no. We good. I'm good. I'm about to show you how much energy I got right now.
Yeah, let's get it. Y'all be on the lookout for that link. Be on the lookout for the link. Make sure y'all paying attention to who in the chat talking about who won and who not. Because if they ain't in here, they lying because they don't know. Let's get it, Ali. We got 5 minutes.
Hold on. 1 second. I'm just trying to make sure I got the pages down because I'm scrolling through the book and I don't want to waste time. I'm writing down the pages so I know exactly where to go, when I hit that point. And so
we just got a lot of momentum. No, I'm saying we got a lot of momentum. You know what I'm saying? So we definitely want to keep that energy going on.
This is about to be hot right here. This is about to be hot. I promise you. Hold on.
All right.
Hold on. Let me find this last one. Goddamn, where you at? All right, hold up. Hold on.
Yeah, trying to put the finishing touches.
Oh yeah, this is going to be the finishing touch. So
this is a question that you asking, Ali.
No, it's not a question.
It's a 5 minute.
We done with that. We done with that.
Right.
Yeah,
5
we
minute
closing.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Just putting the icing on the cake. Yeah, we just trying to put the icing on the cake. Finish it off.
Yeah, I'm about to.
This cake is made of poo-poo over there. I got a poo-poo cake.
No, I'm trying to deal with something that I didn't get to teach in the subject, but I got 5 minutes so I can hit it. So give me a chance. All right.
Would you like to go, Jabari?
No, I'm about to go right now. Let me share my screen. Let me share my screen.
All right, we do see your screen. We see your screen.
Yeah, no. All right. So I didn't get to touch on this. All right, but I want to touch on it right now. And I got 5 minutes. All right.
Yep, 5 minutes on the clock.
You ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So throughout this presentation, I have sourced, my opponent would like to say I didn't source indigenous documents. I started out as sourcing indigenous documents like temples and other places to show you, yes, the art, because that helps. And then we had the accounts. This part I want to show you right here pertains to us and this whole Africa situation. And I wanted to introduce something called bottlenecks. Bottlenecks is when you have a large population that dies off and the genes of the main group that survive shrink down. And they happen as a result of environmental catastrophes. This is one. The Toba volcanic explosion is talked about by geneticists, geologists as a bottleneck because of how it impacted the planet. Now, what happened with the Toba catastrophe? This volcano went off and it released a lot of things, but one of the things that it releases a lot of sulfur aerosols, all right? And these sulfur aerosols show up in this area right here, okay? Now, the reason why that is important to hominids and to white people is because their melanin is sulfur-based, right? Ours is selenium-based. And so you have to look at bottlenecks to explain what happened with their biology, including all the extinct hominids who had pale skin, all right, and the current white race. There was a mutation that took place based on these sulfur aerosols. So now let me go to an article that kind of talks about this, because why is this important? Let me break down why this is important. Because one of the things that I was going to propose is that the 20 extinct hominid lines that they have categorized into various different hominids were actually a poor way to approach the science. A better way to approach the science is to do DNA testing on all the ones you find. They don't do that for a reason. There's only been Neanderthal, Homo sapiens, and the Denisovans who have been typed. And so these types, you get to look at the genome to see what's wrong with the genome. My point to you is that this particular catastrophe right here, right, is what contributed to people who have pale skin on this planet. And it's based on the sulfur aerosols being released into the environment that impacted them. And what was not in proximity to this are the Aboriginals in the Americas, right? And that's an important point to what I'm about to read. All right. This particular study right here. All right. And let me give you the source on it. 72, exposure to sulfur in soil experiments, pigmentation by pheomelanin in birds inhabiting Iceland. They were doing studies.
2 minutes.
I mean, how much on?
2
minutes. Good. Okay. They were doing studies to see what was causing pheomelanin to catalyze into biological life forms. And so they did the test on birds, and what they found out is this. However, environmental effects on the thiol levels of melanocytes that influence pheomelanin synthesis and pigmentation may not be exerted only through an effect of dietary cysteine. Exposure to elemental sulfur can also affect intracellular thiols. The biological effects of exposure to elemental sulfur are poorly studied, but it is known that terrestrial animals can be exposed to environmental sulfur via sulfur-containing ingested food through inhalation of sulfur dust, that's the aerosols I just showed, by skin contact from exposure to sulfur in the surrounding environment. These effects influence intracellular thiols, which can produce toxicity as observed in rats inhaling sulfur particles and in guinea pigs ingesting sulfur-containing food. A high increase in the intracellular thiol levels can thus be toxic. From a kinetic perspective, this promotes pheomelanin synthesis in melanocytes. My point is important that most of what we know of what we're calling evolution happened as far as the hominids on the African continent because of bottlenecks. The Americas didn't experience that. So you're not going to go find all of these hominids in ancient
30
America
seconds.
because they were not in the proximity of the bottlenecks. So our future study will be to look at those particular hominids for the disease states that they experience. And I wanted to show one person, if I can find his picture. He's suffering from microencephaly, and this is what most of the hominids were suffering from. But if I can't find his picture, that's fine. I wanted to hit on that point because you will not find ancient dead hominids, which I think are really for the disease.
Tom. All right, that was the last one. Close out from Ali. We're going to go ahead and finish this thing off. Again, be on the lookout in the chat for the link to the after show. If you have any questions that you want to ask the debaters, you better show up quick. Jabari, both of these men are busy men. They got things to do. So let's go ahead and close this thing out. Jabari, 5 minutes on the clock. I'm ready whenever you are.
Yeah, I'm going to just go. I just want to be very clear about what this debate was about, right? This is about whether we are the African or we are indigenous to the Americas. And I think that it should be clear, even to those people who are the fanboys on the Abo side, which person prevailed here. It should be clear. Most of the time, he wasn't even making the argument. And in his last piece, he tries to actually argue that there are Negroes in Mexico in 1537. I really wanted him to engage with the source, right? I was testing him. I would love for him to tell the chat what year enslavement started in Mexico, because if that document is from 1537, I'm not sure if he knows what year enslavement of Africans started in Mexico. He's assuming maybe it's 1619 because that's when we look at the white line coming here to the United States. But I think that he's confused about this. By the way, let me just tell you, it starts in 1519, which means that it's almost 20 years earlier. Seeing people of African descent on a codex shouldn't be a big deal because we know that Africans were there. He's making some funny faces. Don't let me do this to you. Here's the source, because I'm going to show you a source. Here we go. This is from the Wiley Online Library, The Legacy of African Slavery in Colonial Mexico by Douglas Richmond. African Mexicans have endured general neglect, once as slaves and again as historical subjects. Few scholars have examined the African-Hispanic experience thoroughly. Biased interpretation of Mexican history insisted that Hispanic indigenous influence is the only foundation for the construction of Mexico's modern society. That is what he's doing. This study surveys the experiences of contributions of Africans from 1519 to 1810. He shows you something in 1537. He doesn't know when Africans were brought there. So that's part of the challenge. This is the reason why I'm suggesting to you that he would do well to actually take a class. Let me say this to you as well. Let me show you this as well. I want to remind you of my first point when I said there were keys to this debate. I told you that he was going to ignore the voluminous data connecting African Americans to Africa. He's never acknowledged or even spoken to the personal narratives of Africans saying that they were kidnapped from Africa. He said nothing about it. I've said a lot about it during this debate. He has never said a word about it. Why? Because he knows that it refutes him automatically. There are bills of sales. There are enslavement dungeons on the west coast of Africa. We have enslavement ships, descriptions of enslavers saying that they took people from Africa to the New World, the papal bulls that describe where Africans were going to, court proceedings, names of African places in the West, DNA studies. Obviously, you saw that he says that he's an expert in DNA, but he interfaced with that on the issue of Albert Perry very poorly. I wish that he would leave Albert Perry alone. And I'm going to tell you something that I have not shared yet. I spoke to Albert Perry's descendant. Ali, don't make me do this to you. I will end your entire career. I do research. That's what I do for a living. I could have played the video here, but I didn't need to do that. Why? Because all I needed to prove is that Ali doesn't even read his own sources. There's a scholarly article that brought Albert Perry to this community, to everyone. He didn't read the article. They tell you that it seems that that his lineage is in Cameroon, but there's not enough research there for us to pin it down entirely. Ali also wants us to ignore that there's so many organizations created by people of African descent that bear the name Africa. In addition to that, I told you he was going to go almost entirely on the words of Europeans. And then I showed you how even Giovanni Verrazano, who the Verrazano Bridge in New York is named after, by the way, says that these people are dark, but they resemble Orientals.
30
I don't
seconds.
think I understood what that meant. I want you to hear this. Ali did not bring anything to this debate here today that has not been refuted, and he didn't even address the topic in the main. I want you to remember he said in that very room that we are not Africans and that we are from here. And I think I have proven to my case over and over again, while he seemed to even argue my case. Have a good day, folks. Enjoy.
Tom. And just like that, that's what heavyweights look like. All right, if they ain't doing it like what y'all just saw, if they ain't doing it like what y'all just saw, they ain't doing it right. All right, this is what it looked like when the House of Conscience get it in. This is what big league debates look like when they get it in. Sourced information, intelligent arguments, respect, all of that, right? With some shots in there in between. So we'd like to thank all y'all for coming out again.
Family, make sure you subscribe. For those of y'all who are not getting the notifications, subscribe and hit all of the hit it all, so that way y'all can get these notifications.
The after party is in the chat right now, Max Bird. I'm looking at it right now. So for sure, y'all make sure y'all click that link. If y'all have any questions.